Learjet 55 crashed around 6:30 p.m. We know that it happened a little sooner than that after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. When I say sooner, I mean our timeline here from the benefit of video is around 6:07. The plane was en route, as we've been reporting, to Springfield-Branson National Airport in Missouri. The FAA and NTSB will investigate. The NTSB will lead and provide all updates. And then, as we know, there will be preliminary reports. Sadly enough, we're reminded how the timeline is now, given the situation at Reagan. And there's just sifting through information. I have to say that I've reached out to the mayor's office. I've reached out to the mayor's spokesperson to see if there is anything that we can share from Mayor Sherelle Parker just yet on this. I am waiting to hear back. I sent that text just 3 minutes ago, so I know they are busy, but wanted to let you know that we're making those inquiries.
Hey, Joe, we may have some information possibly right now. Stand by, Joe. I'm going to get back to you. City Council member Mike Driscoll, I believe, joins us on the phone. Mike, are you there? Hey, Mike. I understand this is your district where this crash happened. What are you hearing? What are your emotions as you watch what we are watching right now?
Hey, look, it's a sad night for Northeast Philadelphia. Here you have heroes on a plane that are trying to save lives. And tragically, something happened and caused this accident within 30 seconds of them leaving Northeast Airport.
Unbelievable. Mike, have you heard from any other officials, whether it be from the police or fire department or even the mayor herself? What the next move?
The mayor will be setting up a command post at the northeast corner of Cottman and Boulevard. She's been in contact with the governor. We were on site at the Office of Emergency Management. All the police officers on hand. We have all the agencies, the fire department, utilities have all been notified what has to be turned off. This is a team effort, not just right now, but this is going to go on for days.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. Mike, what is your message right now to the residents in that area who may be watching this, who may want to go out and see what happened and check on their maybe loved ones or friends? What's your message to your district right now?
Those that live in that area, listen to the leadership that are going to be knocking on doors and giving them direction. Pay attention. It's still an evolving situation. These fires take a life of their own, as we know, especially when you have gas utilities. But we are a team effort here, and everybody, it's all hands on deck, and just pray that things are successful as we move forward.
Amen to that. Mike, where were you when you heard?
I was just coming home to have dinner with my family when I got the call.
Wow. Well, as many families probably were having dinner or about to finish up when this occurred. Just an absolutely unbelievable scene. Mike, thank you so much. We appreciate you checking in.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you, sir. Carrie Corrado. Carrie Corrado is standing by now with maybe some more information. Carrie, what have you learned?
Yuki, I actually have a 10-year-old here. His name is Declan. Hi, Declan.
Hi.
Declan, so tell everyone what you saw on the way home from hockey practice.
So I saw blinking lights coming from the sky, and I just saw them going down and down and down. And I came home, I watched TV, I saw the news, and now I'm here.
So you saw that plane literally come down from the sky?
Yeah, it was really scary.
Wow, and you were with your dad?
Yeah.
Yep. Tell me more about what you guys were thinking. That would be really scary to see.
Yeah, it was really because we didn't know what it was. I just saw blinking lights. I thought it was something for the plane landing, but then I just got home and I saw it and I was like, dang, I just witnessed it. It was it was pretty scary.
Did you happen to see any flames or any explosion, or just kind of see the plane go down?
Yeah, I really just saw the plane go down. It was just white blinking, and then that was it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for telling me your story.
You're welcome.
All right, Yuki, so you just heard from Declan, who was with his dad coming home from hockey practice, when they say they saw the plane come down. I also spoke to a lot of people who say they saw a big fireball after this. Many of them saw it coming from overhead and then went down, and then a big fireball and smoke billowing into the air. But we are a little away from the scene right now. We are being kept back, but you can see a lot of emergency responders out here, a lot of blinking lights. It's all hands on deck as everyone responds and tries to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a team effort, and we thank Declan as well. That's something that he will probably never forget. And it was kind of interesting. He said he just saw the white lights. He didn't see any flames or anything like that. He just saw the white lights. So that obviously, that's going to be discussed, I'm sure, in the investigation as well. When Mr. Walk said it could have been a malfunction of some sort. There were no, at least Declan didn't see any flames, just the lights. And then we saw what happened after that. All right, Carrie, we'll let you get back on the street and get more information, maybe some more interviews, and maybe even more witnesses to what you are looking at right now on this videotape. A Learjet 55 crashes in Northeast Philadelphia. Moments after takeoff, a medical plane going from Philadelphia to Springfield, Missouri, just after 6 o'clock tonight, has gone down in Northeast Philadelphia. All this, once again, coming off the heels of that mid-air collision, that tragic collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Grant, the weather seems to be providing a little help as far as the investigation and talking to people and searching for people who may have been hurt.
Right. I mean, look, it is raining. It's been raining for most of the day, but temperatures are in the upper 40s to right around 50 degrees right now. So as people are out and about and trying to figure out what's going on, while they are out in this light rain, it looks like a little area of some heavy rain is about ready to move over. You see out to the left side of your screen there, that yellow or that darker color there, that's really indicating that some heavier showers is starting to move in. And I'll zoom out and show you what we're seeing across the area, and that is just more of this steady rain. But again, temperatures are right around 50 degrees, so it's a relatively mild January evening, even though it is raining out there and the rain continues. I'll zoom.
As you just joining us, good night to you all. Another tragedy in the United States. A plane, a Learjet, a small medical Learjet plane, has crashed in a residential area in Northeast Philadelphia. We're going to go to a Philadelphia news outlet that is bringing us more news in. Bear with us, please, as we switch over to a different system here. We are bringing it to you live right here on the Mek Wi Talk program, where we're listening and watching from around the world and the Eastern Caribbean. This is Mek Wi Talk with yours truly, Jeffrey T. A sad night here on our channel. Sad night here in the United States of America.
Around when this happened, but there's also, as we all know, dozens upon dozens upon dozens of first responders, local police, firefighters, EMS, and certainly as they go in to try and help people and save lives, they are not immune to being hurt or somehow affected or injured themselves. So this is certainly still an ongoing, a very active, developing situation. But again, at this time, I'll show you the scene. Activity here at Jefferson Torresdale is sporadic. The entry there to the ER still blocked off by a police officer. He is closely monitoring who is coming in and out of the hospital. Some people being turned away. Every time an ambulance has come in, they've certainly been allowed to get in quickly. But that is the latest for now. I'll continue to try and talk to someone with Jefferson and monitor the situation here. Back to you.
Okay, Leland, thank you so much for that reporting again, folks, as we continue to follow this breaking news coming from Northeast Philadelphia. So much shock and awe right in our backyard there as we watch different pieces of video coming in from social media. You can see how alarmed people were. Some people just going about their day. Shari, as you said, you saw people walking down the street. A plane comes down and one person, you said a commander or someone sent you, was actually on fire.
A person on fire.
We saw one man who was looks like he was leaving his home, saying goodbye maybe perhaps to his wife. And in the background, you saw that plane come down and then that ball of fire that erupted. He runs back into his home and you can hear his wife screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." Again, this Learjet 55 crashing around 6:30. The FAA saying that it was on its way to a medical assignment in Springfield, Branson, Missouri. Heartbreaking story, shocking story, unbelievable situation in our own backyard right there in Northeast Philadelphia along Roosevelt Boulevard, Cotman Avenue, heavily traveled area.
Yeah, the thing that is so surprising is because we don't have to really go through this often. Plane crashes are not common in the United States. And here we are now reporting on our second such plane of devastation in a matter of days. And this is just only heightening the concern and making people feel uncomfortable and just really in a place of disbelief.
Yeah, as we heard some witnesses saying, they saw bodies on the ground. They saw cars on fire. We know at one point we were talking to Brianna Smith, we saw a building on fire. Firefighters on top of that building attacking the flames there. We know there are multiple casualties tonight, and now becomes the big questions of how this happened, why did this happen, and investigators have a long way to go, of course, as this is all continuing to unfold.
Let's go now to Action News reporter Brianna Smith, who is near the scene of the crash, as close as we can get, because we're trying to, of course, do this safely and within the parameters that police are asking us to do the reporting. Brianna, you have an update?
Well, Shar, we are at Cottman and Roosevelt. Like you mentioned, we are pushed back, working to learn more from police. I did reach out to see when we possibly would be able to get an update, so I am waiting to hear back. But I'm still taking a look at this smoke that's coming from the building. We mentioned it about an hour or so ago. That was behind the Cottman food. Gray also mentioned it, where we saw the firefighters on top of the building. Still wondering where that smoke is coming from and why and how it started. I'm sure first responders working hard to get it all under control, but still just very much an active scene here, Shari and Gray. We did see a fire truck leave the scene, but just so many first responders, police officers, just trying to figure out what happened here, assess the area, assess the damage. We've been talking to people who were here when the explosion happened, when they saw the houses, the vehicles go on fire, and just describe what it's like here. And, you know, you just think about the people who are on the plane, the people who are on the ground, those who are impacted in the homes nearby. We spoke a lot about this just being a very busy area, especially happening during rush hour. So you just imagine the people who were impacted by this. And, you know, we're working to learn more about those people, about the injuries, those who lost their lives. And you just can't help to think about these families tonight. But yeah, first responders here working hard, trying to make sure that everyone is safe and that things remain under control. But again, so many questions here, and waiting to hear from authorities to learn more about the crash tonight. Shari and Gray.
Yeah, Brianna, thanks for your reporting. Just a unbelievable night here in the city of Philadelphia. Some new information coming in from ABC News now. ABC News reporting that Jet Rescue Air Ambulance was operating that Learjet 55 that crashed here in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, we should tell you that Governor Josh Shapiro, of course, heavily aware of this situation. He's saying earlier tonight that his team is communicating with local officials and first responders, offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to this small plane that went down there in Northeast Philadelphia around 6:30 p.m. We know it was en route to Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri, and we saw Annie at Northeast Philadelphia Airport, where that ground stop is now in effect. So we know this is a plane that was on a medical mission, and she alluded to the fact that this is already heartbreaking and shocking enough. But to think that possibly there were patients on that plane en route to try to get some help, and then this happens. That plane goes down right there in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, at this point, we don't know what happened to make this plane go down, but we know it did go down right there, right here in our own backyard. We see debris strewn everywhere there on the streets. We heard from witnesses who said they saw bodies in the street. They saw cars and buildings and homes on fire. And we heard one guy crediting the response of our police and fire department, saying that they were there within a matter of minutes.
Let's now take a listen to a witness who was on the scene near this area when the plane went down.
It was a small plane basically hit right over there, and it was just like, it was just horrific. It was something, I was just driving down the street and coming out of Wendy's, and I just saw a plane basically just hit the buildings, and just an explosion happened, and I just seen the sky light up, and I pulled over, and basically it was just real bad around here.
How loud was it? Like, did it shake you?
I guess definitely would say it was like minor earthquake-ish. Like, it was just real surprising. Definitely minor earthquake-ish.
And talk about, I mean, we've seen the videos. The fire was pretty explosive.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yes, it lit up the whole sky. Literally lit up the whole sky like it was daytime out here. And it's literally, what time is it? 7:15?
Were you scared at all? Did you like start running or take some steps back, like, or did you stop in your tracks?
I was driving, so I was coming out of Wendy's.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a good 4 for 4. Shout out to Wendy's.
And then what did you see after the fact? Were a lot of people kind of in the street taking, a look at what happened?
We saw a fire. Yes, there was a lot of people in the street because there's still Roosevelt Boulevard and Cotman Avenue. But it was definitely a real. It's horrific. It's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime situation. I hope everybody's safe at least.
There you were just listening to a witness who described what he heard, what he saw, what he felt, describing this as a minor earthquake, saying that this explosion, when that plane went down, lit up the sky like it was daytime. He was shocked in disbelief, sad, and of course, in total shock about what happened right here in Northeast Philadelphia. Certainly something that we randomly see or probably never see on the streets there in Northeast Philadelphia. There have been planes that have gone down before, helicopters that have gone down before, and we've covered. But this situation here is something that we have not covered something like this before here.
So this Learjet 55 crashing just about 2 hours ago after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. We are working to get more confirmation in regards to the number of people who were on board this jet. So far, we are hearing from officials that there were at least 2. We know there were at least 2 people on this Learjet 55 that was on a medical assignment making its way. It was hoping to make its way to an airport in Missouri. Let's go now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at that Northeast Philadelphia airport where the Learjet departed from. Annie, what can you tell us?
Yeah, and sorry, earlier I was reporting that there are up to 6 on the plane. I heard that from multiple sources. Then the FAA put out something saying 2. Sadly, we are hearing from even more sources that it is up to 6 people that were on that medical jet, or hearing that there was at least a medic, a pilot, and possibly a patient. Of course, we're still working to get all of this absolutely confirmed from officials, but there are now an abundant amount of sources telling people. So reportedly 6 people on this medical jet that was headed to Springfield, Missouri. At this point, we know that the flight took off a little bit after 6 o'clock. It crashed at 6:30. There are actually people that are arriving here to Atlantic Aviation right now. I'm not 100% sure if this is where the jet took off from, but there is a lot of activity here, and this is where police are as well. So at this point, there is a ground stop here. Detectives are in the tower now still as we speak. And again, we don't know the reason for this flight. We're talking about how there's a variety of reasons that something could be a medical jet. Another thing I learned in talking to, I am by no means an aviation expert. However, in talking to some people just within the past half hour, it makes a little bit more sense as to how a jet like that could take off in conditions like this. I don't know if you heard me earlier, but Ricky Harris and I were driving up from Delaware just before 6, and it was so foggy we could barely see on 95 with the rain. But when you have certain jets have certain instruments that are capable of flying in different types of inclement weather. And so what I am told by some people in the aviation field is if this is a medical jet, that it could be one that falls into that category to have those special instruments. And even if you have inclement weather, you have the ability to fly over, say, maybe a commercial plane or something of that nature. So it is making a little bit of sense now. As to what the medical mission was, we don't know. We were talking before, we've covered multiple stories over the years of different people that either fly to transport organs, they fly to transport a patient that maybe can't get a specific type of medical care in one area. Sometimes in situations it's somebody who's donating their time to fly them. We don't think that is this situation here because it is believed to be a private jet. We don't think this is one of those situations. So at this point, again, we're still trying to figure out all that. But here at the airport now, what I'm also told is that they are checking on certain things. One of the things that somebody is out there right now testing the fuel. Not to say that could be the reason why this flight went down, but they're going to start looking at all of the possibilities as to what that could have been. But I'm told that they're checking the fuel right now, in part since it's been such a heavy downpour now for several hours, checking possibly to see if any water got into the fuel, anything of that nature. We don't know that for sure. This is normal procedure to check all of the possible things that could go wrong. And, you know, when we're listening earlier this week in regards to the horrific plane crash that killed 67 people in Washington, we got a reminder of all of the things that federal investigators look into in these situations. So besides weather, there's going to be other things that has to do with the instruments on the plane, that has to do with fuel. Could this have been engine failure? And when you look at those flight all different names that basically do the same thing, where you can look and you can see where a flight takes off, what time they take off, where the flight is going. And when you look at the numerous flight apps and you see this plane, you see that it was barely in the sky. It wasn't even in the sky for that long, and it looks like it just went straight down before crashing at the Boulevard and Cottman. And again, probably the worst place in the city that it could crash, with the amount of traffic, the amount of people, the amount of commercial businesses and residential businesses all in that cluster. So those are all things that they're going to be looking at, investigators here. And again, that's also why they're talking to the tower right now to figure out exactly what the tower knew, what they saw, what they heard, if there was any transmissions between the tower and the pilots before. All of that is going to be broken down. And again, all the types of things that when we've been watching the ongoing news coverage of what happened in Washington, even though this flight may have had significantly less people on it, they're all going to look at many of the same things to see how exactly this happened. It isn't because of weather that there's a ground stop, it's because of the plane crash. So we do know right now that that's why nothing is taking off here at Northeast Airport. But within just the past 20 minutes, I can say we've seen at least 4 or 5 people arrive here running in with some sense of urgency. Whether they're investigators, we don't know. When it comes to the FAA and the NTSB, they have investigators that are stationed, in different areas of the country to respond. So, that could be people that are coming to respond to that to begin the investigation. So police still have a presence here, but obviously they want to put the majority of their resources to the catastrophe that they're seeing all around in the Northeast right now from the multiple things that are happening. Besides the plane crash, besides the debris that's on the ground, you have the fires, then you're going to have to cut off gas lines and power. So you're going to need police not just to assist, but also to assist with the crowds, to assist with people that may have to be evacuated. So at this point, that's why there is a limited police presence here, even though there is a presence. So again, we also know that there are detectives as well. But we know that plane, according to the flight tracker apps, that plane not only left a little bit after 6, it crashed at 6:30, but it was headed for Springfield, Missouri. Now, on these flights, if this is a flight that was a medic flight and it had up to 6 people on it, then that could also mean that there are potential to be either a doctor, a medic, a nurse, somebody from the healthcare profession on that flight. If you have a patient on a flight like this, they need to be monitored throughout the entire flight, and it's tricky. You're dealing with they're in a different situation. They're out of a hospital. So depending on the extent of care that patient might need, they're going to need somebody with them, a medical professional, and potentially too, maybe a family member as well. So learning more now, hearing again that this is for a medic flight and this is what went down is just, it's so sad and so tragic. And, we're still just working to find out a little bit more information about what exactly the mission of this flight.
Annie, thank you for your perspective and your great reporting there as we continue to take a look at some of these images of this plane that went down here in Northeast Philadelphia. We talked about the situation in Washington, D.C., over the Potomac, where the American Airlines flight slammed, or the Black Hawk slammed into the American Airlines plane. We saw that go down, 67 people losing their lives. But when you look at this video in our own backyard, it's a different situation, and it brings it closer to home, as we know there will be mass fatalities. We've seen the videos of people on fire walking down the street there in Northeast Philadelphia, and there's an explosion as that plane goes down. We know that people have lost their lives.
What we also realize about this is the magnitude of the scene. The scene itself is, because it's a populated area, the impact is different because there are people on the ground who were walking the street, who were getting on the bus, who were walking to
If you're just joining us, we're coming to you on air where there is a small medical Learjet plane has crashed in Philadelphia. I have a friend of mine who's like a brother to me who knows about Learjets. And believe you me, they have some equipment on those jets that, you know, I don't know what really happened. I'm not going to speculate, but as we come on air, as you come on air now, there is a plane crash in the United States. A small Learjet medical plane has just crashed in the United States.
It looks like you were about to have a press conference with the Philadelphia Police Department. So we're getting ready for that. I'm going to put this microphone on the stand.
Go ahead.
And then we can take a listen, okay?
You got it, Josh. We will definitely come back to you when it starts. But as you can see, the mayor should be there very soon, along with other officials from the city of Philadelphia, to discuss the crash of this Learjet 55. Let's talk about it more right now. Go back out to the scene. I believe Carrie Corrado is standing by with more information. Carrie?
Yuki, this is all hands on deck. Every police officer, every firefighter is here trying to help. Everywhere you look, you can see flashing police lights here, and people are out really trying to figure out what exactly is going on. I spoke with a man who says he saw the explosion from the crash, and then he got out of his car and he just ran. Another man says he saw a massive fireball, and then another young boy we spoke with say he saw the plane coming down. Many people are also out here showing me some videos that they have that captured the plane coming down and then the massive explosion after that. So many people captured this on their Ring camera or on their cell phones. There's many witnesses accounts because many people live, work, and shop around here. People are everywhere. So are emergency responders, like I mentioned. Everywhere you look, you can see police running around trying to figure this all out. The entire area, though, traffic-wise, is gridlocked. Streets and roads are blocked off, and we were even rerouted all over the place. So it's very difficult to get around here if you live around here. It's also raining, so investigators and emergency responders are battling all of this through the rain. Investigators are here trying to figure out.
If you're 55 or over, did you know you could leave your loved ones with an inheritance of up to $300,000 with
A small plane, a Learjet 55, has crashed in Northeast Philadelphia. 6 people on board, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient, a family member of that patient as well. That's the moment of impact, just after 6 o'clock. Just after 6 o'clock outside of the Roosevelt Mall. And that's where our reporters are right now. And they're going to stay on the scene as we continue to get more information. Let's get more information right now, if we can, on the phone. I believe Joe Holden is standing by with that. Joe?
I'm with you, Yuke, and if you have to cut me off, please do so. I'll stop talking. Trying to get a sense of the debris field here, and I've asked our control room to pull up a map that might give us a sense somewhat a little closer up. Well, we're going to wait for the press conference. I'll toss it back to you, Yuke.
Well, you know what, Joe? We're going to keep an eye on these microphones right now, and then if the mayor or other officials step to it, I'll let you know, and we will take it. But continue with your thought, please.
Sure. So if we have a map, and if we don't want to go to the map, I'll just explain that from my own assessment, it looks like debris fields scattered as far south as Tyson Avenue at the Boulevard, also about eastward towards St. Matt's at Wellington. So you see the Boulevard there. Go to that next parallel street of Cottman Avenue. That's Tyson. Mm-hmm. So Tyson at the Boulevard, there's debris there. There's debris reported at where you see and in the Chiron there, Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. A friend in the area told me a secretary from that parish there at St. Matthew, former St. Matt's secretary, said blocks from the church thought a car hit her house that it shook so bad. So blocks on the other side of the boulevard from where this plane crashed. People felt it, immediately had a reaction, and the debris field appears to be widening, which I'm told now by my sources that if you have something on your property, it obviously is likely connected to this, to call 911.
Right. That's going to be a crucial part of the investigation.
And indeed, and it is best just to leave it, to not to touch it, and just to notify authorities. Now, police may clarify that and give a number to the NTSB. Obviously, we'll wait for that. But I'm told as they are gathering around that bank of microphones that they are assembling the team that will be addressing this. And as you've noted, that may take a few moments. So we're continuing to work our sources as best we can, but they are tied up, to say the least.
All right, Joe, you stand by. We're continuing to look at the video of this awful, awful, tragic accident right now. Still no official reports of fatalities, but a small Learjet crashed moments after takeoff after leaving the airport in northeast Philadelphia, where many small private planes are held and are in the area there, and they took off. It took off about, just after 6, and then at 6:07, we got reports and ring camera video of the moment of impact. 6 people on board that plane, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient, and a family member. Right now, we are going to the press conference. Right now, you can see many officials, fire officials on the scene. This is Mayor Sherelle Parker, and she's going to explain what she knows thus far. This is the police commissioner right behind her. Let's wait, and here's Mayor Parker.
Everybody here? Let me start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now, we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation. This is only the first of many briefings, I'm sure, to come on this evening. And of course, when daylight comes, when we have more facts and information to share with you. But I do want to say a special thank you right now, again, to all of our federal and state partners and our amazing first responders right here in the city of Philadelphia. Our fire, our EMS, our police department, they have been here working vigorously to ensure that we get this perimeter and the surrounding area blocked off to ensure that we make public safety and health our #1 priority. So we don't have any further information to share at this time. I've spoken to our Governor Josh Shapiro. He is en route. I've spoken to our U.S. Senator John Fetterman, other federal officials, and everyone, all hands on deck. That's where we are right now. Thank you so very much, and we'll have more information to report in the near future.
Thank you, Mayor. You've been listening to Mayor Sherelle Parker thanking all federal and state partners and the first responders in the wake of this horrible accident. A Learjet goes down in northeast Philadelphia. carrying 6 people. 6 people. A debris field is all throughout the area. 6 people on board. A couple of doctors, 2 pilots, a patient, and a family member of the patient. There's the aftermath, the moment of impact, just after 6 o'clock tonight. We're approaching the 3rd hour of our coverage, and still no answers. No answers. It's going to be a long time as this investigation continues as to why this happened. No reports, as the mayor said, of fatalities, official reports. We're still waiting for that information. We have a number of people on the scene, a number of reporters trying to gather as much information as we can as this plane crashes near Cottman and the Boulevard, just less than 5 miles from the Northeast Airport, where it took off on its way to Springfield, Missouri this evening. Janelle Burrell joins me now from our morning crew. Janelle, this has been absolutely shocking and awful to see.
And it is just devastating, Yuki. I was listening to your coverage on the way into the station here, and just seeing these images, that fireball exploding, and hearing the voices of those residents in the neighborhood watching it just in shock and in horror. And all of this happening just a couple of days after what we saw happen outside of our nation's capital. So everybody just very shaken by this news here in Northeast Philadelphia this evening. As we wait to get more details from officials as to what happened, and we're looking at these images, these huge fire piles on the scene as emergency responders are trying to assess what happened here. You can only imagine what these neighbors, what was going through their minds.
Let's try to find out. Let's try to find out more now, because I believe Carrie Corrado is standing by with the latest from her vantage point. Carrie?
Yuki, we've been speaking with a lot of people the moment we got here. We found one man who says he lives nearby. Is that right?
Yeah, I live like 2 blocks from here. You know, like when the accident was, the crash was happened, I was, inside the house. I was talking to my brother, and I heard like big sounds, like it's like some, I don't want to say like earthquake, but it's like somebody's knocking the door, it's very hard. And I was like, what's going on? Then me and my brother just ran out from, house, and we see like, there is nothing basically, but I see like within like 1 minute, everybody started, running from like my neighbor next door and neighbor, everybody's running there.
So you said the crash made your house shake. It almost felt like somebody was like knocking hard on the door.
Yeah, very hard. Like I wasn't expecting like this. I never, I had a noise like that in my house. This is the first time we had like very strong noise,
Okay.
And
so when you realized what was happening, you said you saw people just start running. It was pretty chaotic.
Yeah, very chaotic. Everybody was running. We didn't know what's going on. And my brother was asking somebody that what's going on. Then she's saying like there's probably like car crash or something going on. But within like 30 seconds, we saw there is like a smoke, sky and flames, something like that. And me and my brother just ran, in here, and I saw there is a flame.
So that had to be pretty scary to
Very
watch.
scary, yeah. That time, all the cops and ambulances started coming and big noise everywhere. It's very sad, because I lived in the neighborhood for a long time. It's never happened like that, but I'm, very upset at this moment about this accident.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with me.
No problem. Thank you so much for I'm praying for everybody, feel safe here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Yuki, that was just one account. There are many people who witnessed this plane coming down, many people who say they left their cars and just ran. Other people say they saw a big fireball and then smoke billowing into the air. So this is a very heavily populated area with a lot of businesses, homes, people shopping in the area. So many people saw this and witnessed this, and they're sharing their videos with all of us.
Carrie, thank you so much. Once again, 6 people on that plane, and we just received word. I mentioned that a patient, Carrie, we'll get back to you. Thank you so much. A patient that was on that plane was a child patient, and a family member of that child. 6 people, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, that child patient, and a family member of that child.
Just devastating to hear the details as we wait for an update on the condition of those people who are on board and those who were injured on the ground as well. Our Joe Holden, he has been joining us by phone throughout our coverage here this evening. And Joe, we understand you have some information you can share with us as well.
Well, yeah, Janelle and Yuki, good evening again. And I'm sad to be with you under the circumstances, because the visuals that we've been wrapping our heads around tonight, I want to make a note that when I watched the briefing from the mayor, there certainly appears to be just a deep frustration with with this. And the finer points that the mayor made, saying the aircraft went down shortly after 6 p.m., they still have no fixed reports on the number of fatalities. We know the souls on board that Learjet 55, but the actual number of people who may have been hurt, injured, transported is still unclear, according to the mayor herself. She said that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. We know from our sources, law enforcement, and folks that we are talking to in that community, that houses caught fire, cars caught fire as debris rained down and exploded out from the center of this impact. Mayor Sherelle Parker urged people to stay away, to stay in your homes. And shortly before the mayor took to that bank of microphones, we reminded people what our sources were saying to do. If you have debris on your property, you are urged to call 911, which the mayor, in fact, instructed people to do. We talked about the debris fields to show you the force of the explosion and the impact. My police sources are saying debris has been found as far south as Tyson, which it's not a long car ride, but it is certainly a distance from Cottman and Rupert and Cottman and the Boulevard, and then as far east towards the river as St. Matthews and Wellington and Cottman. It is extensive. We spoke with or heard from a woman who told us that she thought a car had hit her house, and she is on the complete opposite side of the boulevard from here. And in this video that we're looping right now, there's actually a car that looks to be in a bank drive-through that it wasn't even long enough. It appeared that they completed their transaction. This plane crashed, and they stepped on the gas.
Wow.
And this video that we're also watching here now, Arthur Walk previously describing the trajectory with which the plane is coming down, appears to his professional opinion to be almost a 45-degree angle.
And it was essentially just a nosedive to the ground there, Joe.
A nosedive to the ground, and the resulting explosion about as violent as you could imagine. And what we're seeing with the multiple sources of video, ring cameras and dash cameras and other sources of video, it's hard to...
We're having a little breakup, Joe. We will get back to you, but I want to point out that Arthur Walk, the man you mentioned, is an aviation expert and pilot who also has a plane at the Northeast Philadelphia Airport. So he had some hard-hitting comments about what he was looking at right now. We also have a statement from the Learjet people.
Well, so yes, this plane was a Learjet 55. We just got a statement from the company that owns that plane. Right now, they say they cannot confirm any survivors among the 6 people on board. To repeat that, they cannot confirm at this point any survivors among the 6 people who are on board. No names are being released at this time, they say, until family members have been notified.
And we can tell you that the 6 people were 2 doctors on this medical flight to Springfield, Missouri from Philly. 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient who was a child patient, and a family member of that patient.
And you can only imagine for the families as they wait for news as to whether it was in fact their loved ones who were on board that flight. We can now also confirm that the ATF is on the ground here in Northeast Philadelphia as part of this investigation. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board also part of this investigation as well. Of course, we are still in the very early stages of all of this as we're still waiting for news as to, in addition to the 6 people who are on board that flight, how many others on the ground were injured as well.
We had initial reports that there were injuries on the ground. The extent of those injuries, we don't know right now. I don't know if Josh Sanders has any information on that, but he is here now to supply some more information from this tragic accident. Josh?
Yeah, Yuki, I just heard from sources with Governor Josh Shapiro's office. The governor is en route. He is supposedly going to be here in 15 minutes, around 15 minutes. Obviously, the governor is gathering information right now, but they are working on kind of the logistics because of obviously how much this area has been impacted and closed off right now. They're going to try to get the governor to come over and speak with us in about 15 minutes, I'm told. So that I just got off the phone with the source with the governor's office. So 15 minutes out. Obviously, the governor will, express any information that he can share with us. As you heard again from Mayor Sherelle Parker, it's so early on in this investigation. But again, she said that she spoke with the governor. She also said she spoke with Senator John Fetterman about 15 minutes out for that governor. I also asked if they had been in contact with the White House. So we're waiting to gather information to find out if they've talked with White House officials about what's going on here and if President Trump has been briefed on this situation. But again, Yuki, 15 minutes, we should hear from Governor Josh Shapiro.
And
Josh
Sanders, thank you for that update. But, Yuki, what's so hard during all of this is the fact that this just happened, a couple of hours ago at this point, and 3 hours, going on 3 hours now, and there's still so many unanswered questions. So those officials who we've been hearing from, the mayor included, they're still waiting to hear details as to what happened. And as we wait for the governor to get to the scene, our Carrie Corrado, she has been on the scene for us there this evening. Carrie, what can you tell us from your vantage point?
Well, I'm speaking with a lot of people who are out here trying to figure out what's going on. Many of them tell me they live pretty far away, but their house is shook. They say the moment after the crash, their house is shook, and then they just saw people running. When they came outside of their house, they looked in the sky, they saw the smoke and the flames, and they could just see it billowing into the air. But behind me, there are emergency responders everywhere. Like I mentioned earlier, it is all hands on deck. Every police officer, every firefighter is out here trying to help this neighborhood. I just also spoke with a man who says after the explosion, he actually got out of his car and just ran. He was so close to it. Another man described it to me as a massive fireball after the crash. There are many witnesses' accounts out here because many people live, work, and shop around here. People are out here, and many of them are also, like I mentioned, emergency responders. Everywhere you look, you see these police lights. This entire area, if you're driving around here, it's gridlocked. Streets and roads are blocked off. We were rerouted all over the place. It's also raining, so a lot of investigators are trying to process this scene in the rain. Moments ago, we did just see the Red Cross on here trying to help a lot of people who were affected, but a lot of concerned neighbors out here trying to make sure everybody is okay.
Carrie, just out of curiosity, can you see any damage to any homes?
Yuki, from my vantage point, we are too far back. I can't see any damage. All I can see are waves of smoke continuing to billow into the air. So it looks like there are still a lot of hot spots on scene.
For sure, no doubt about it. And just thank you, Carrie. And I guess it was about 35 minutes or so, the fire department contacted us and say these fires that you're looking at now, this is from drone video. These fires are now under control, but this was the scene. This was the scene moments after impact. This video just coming into us now.
And as we've been recapping for you, for those who are not familiar with this area of Northeast Philadelphia, you can actually see from this vantage point from the drone video, this is a densely populated area, not only with a lot of neighborhoods of row homes, but commercial businesses as well. So on a Friday night, the end of a long week, you can imagine there might have been people on their way home, people going out with their families at that time of night, around 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. And to see that fireball just explode on the ground there, that plane essentially nosedive to the ground, had to be just shocking.
And just after dinner time, folks probably wrapping up the meal, maybe even starting the meal. And then this happened. This happened. A Learjet. Just moments after takeoff. Moments after takeoff, just a few minutes, and 6 people on board. 6 people on board. We're still waiting for the official call on any fatalities. We don't have that officially yet, but the mayor will be back. The governor's on his way. Many of the top officials are on their way as we continue to watch this unfold. But you're watching video that happened About 3 hours or so ago, once again, the fire department has told us that the majority of these fires are under control right now, but now the investigation really begins.
Yeah, and to recap, if you're just joining us, this medical jet was taking off from Northeast Airport around 6:07. The first calls went out to officials that the plane went down at 6:12. And as you know, we have been dealing with rainy and cloudy conditions throughout the day. Meteorologist Grant Gilmore has been here with us during our coverage as well. Grant, if you can give us some insight as to the conditions that the pilots may have been dealing with as they were taking off from the airport.
So there was actually a small break in the rain, Janelle, right around the time that the Learjet would have been taking off. But I'm showing you a live loop of the radar. It's an hour loop. So there's light rain over the northeast right now, over northeast Philadelphia. That yellow and actually a little bit of a darker yellow and an orange is moving in from the southwest. So more moderate rain is starting to move in. So that will obviously hamper those conditions as the rescuers are out there and responding to the crash. I'll take you back to the conditions leading up to the crash. So the crash happened right around 6:07 this evening. Right around 5:54, Northeast Philadelphia Airport reporting overcast skies with that cloud deck down at 400 feet. And according to some of the tracking that we were able to put onto the plane climbed up to around 1,200 feet. So it would have climbed up into that cloud deck, which overcast skies, almost zero visibility probably within those clouds, mist on the ground. Temperatures were at 48 degrees, wind speeds around 10 miles per hour. So the crash happened around 6:07 in the Northeast. Temperatures were around 49 at 6:14. Overcast conditions still. Like I said, the precipitation, that light rain, had moved out at that point briefly before now we're seeing those showers starting to move back in and pick up in intensity. I'll take you down there right now. Reporting conditions there at the Northeast Philadelphia Airport right around 51 degrees. So if we can find any silver lining in this from a weather perspective, is that those temperatures are relatively mild. It is late January, almost February. Just last week, we had temperatures in the teens and single digits across the region. We have temperatures now at 51 degrees. So all the responders are in relatively mild temperatures, though it is raining and we're going to see some heavier rain move in relatively shortly. At least those temperatures are a little bit more manageable. I'll take you down a little bit closer right now. I've stopped the radar just to show it's light rain over. There's the Northeast Airport right there, just to the southwest. It's roughly 5 miles. I can put a track on it here and show you from Northeast Philadelphia down to the Roosevelt Mall. It's about 3.3 miles as the crow flies. And then you get a little bit closer down, closer to where the crash site is. And, you know, almost right across the street from Cotman there. And our own Joe Holden is reporting that there has been reports of debris as far southwest as Tyson. So by my calculations, that's about 1/10 of a mile that debris field was stretched from the side of the crash, all south and west. So that's consistent with the flight track there. Learjet taking off from the airport just to the northeast, about 3 miles or so northeast of where it crashed, and then the debris strewn at least 1/10 of a mile farther to the south and west. So that's what I've been able to look at just from a fact standpoint and weather standpoint, guys. And like I said, light rain right now over the northeast, but we've got heavier rain moving in probably within the next 20 minutes or so.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I just got a text from a friend who kind of lives in the area. She lives about 3 miles from the mall. And she said her next door neighbor, as we've heard from a lot of people, said her house shook violently when it happened. And she went outside thinking there might have been a car accident. She did hear a boom, my friend did, around that time. But this was the result. They had no idea at the time, but this is what happened. A small plane, a Learjet, leaving the Northeast Philadelphia Airport with 6 people on board, including a child. A medical flight going to Springfield, Missouri. Goes down just after the 6 o'clock hour this evening.
And that boom and that violent shaking you described only speaks to how powerful the impact was from that crash this evening. Our chief investigative reporter, Joe Holden, has been working his sources throughout the evening for us as well. Joe, what do you have on your end?
Well, Janelle, you know what? I'm continuing to watch video that we're receiving here in the newsroom. And from what I can see from our assignment editor, Ben Payne, he has come across video that shows a couple. It looks like the husband might be leaving the house. It is a normal Friday night. That's what this video begins to show. You hear wind chimes. And then all of a sudden, because the video is so good, you actually see a searchlight making its way through down from the clouds. And what is unmistakable in this video, and we're working to cue this up, but so I'm previewing this. What is unmistakable is the roar of the jets. So these jets sound as if they are at full throttle as this Lear jet crashes into the ground, resulting in, from what this drone video is showing, this catastrophe here in Northeast Philadelphia. Sources telling me now that the FAA arriving at Northeast Airport has now left the airport and will be heading to the scene there by ground. So that part of the investigation commencing, but as soon as we can turn around this video, what it shows you is life on a Friday night and then an absolute disaster unfolding behind these people. What I failed to mention, because it's almost an afterthought given the audio, is the absolute whitewash of video that occurs when the impact happens. These folks in Northeast Philadelphia could not have been more than 2 blocks, maybe south of the impact. And it is clear now from watching it why everyone says either their house shook or they heard what sounded like a car crash or something even unimaginable. So it is just it is staggering.
It truly is.
To see what is coming out of Northeast Philadelphia tonight.
Joe, we'll get back to you. It's just after 9 o'clock, 3 hours after this Learjet 55 went down. Once again, a programming note, if you are looking for regular programming, that could be found on Philly 57. Right now, we are continuing our coverage of this Learjet that just left the Northeast Philadelphia airport after 6 o'clock, shortly after 6 o'clock this evening. Moments later, tragically, went down on a 45-degree angle, crashing in this Northeast Philadelphia neighborhood near the Roosevelt Mall. Debris everywhere, fireballs everywhere, and we want to let you know that this is video of what happened earlier. The fire department tells us the majority of these fires are under control and out right now, and the investigation continues.
And there were 6 people on board that medical flight, as we've been telling you. There were 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient, and likely a family member. And we're told that one of the people on board was a child. This is just heartbreaking as we continue to gather details for you. Our Siafa Lewis also at the scene for us. Siafa, tell us where you are and what you're hearing from your vantage point.
So Janelle and Yuki, we are currently on Bustleton Avenue, just off of Cottman. Since the last time we spoke to you, we went on quite an adventure. We walked along Cottman Avenue, deep into the parking lot by the Roosevelt Mall, looking to see if anybody was there, see if we could come upon anybody who may be in their cars. Because a couple hours ago, I spoke to a gentleman, a tow truck driver, who had to leave his tow truck. I did mention to Yuki that he did see the explosion. He was very shook up by it. He said he saw some human remains, was very shook up, did not want to go on camera. So we thought maybe we could see somebody in that direction. We could not. We turned back, went quite a bit.
The industrial grade products you need. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Let's get you smiling again.
Though, who did see a little bit of the explosion, and here's what he had to say.
I just was driving and I saw just a lot of police activity, and then people texted me, I was close here, that there was a plane crash. And then my daughter, who GPS'd me, called me and was making sure that I was okay.
Yeah, so as you've heard from our colleagues who are also here on the scene, just a lot of people who are in shock and disbelief about the tragic events that occurred tonight. Very surreal. I'll tell you, it's very surreal feeling out here tonight.
Making sure you are okay. What the gentleman said, what Jimmy said, that's the bottom line right now. People are checking on each other, especially in that neighborhood, since debris just flew everywhere and people didn't know what was going on. But people taking care of people, that's what it's all about right now in this horrific situation.
And Siafa, you mentioned, tough to hear these details, but you mentioned that that individual you spoke with saw human remains out there at the scene. We're still waiting for confirmation from officials as to the fatalities, but the images are just horrific at this point. Siafa, describe for us the feeling in that community right now as people are waiting to hear, from officials the details as to whether there are any survivors and the injuries that people on the ground may have suffered.
Well, I've now spoken to two individuals tonight who say that they have seen human remains, and I, immediately asked them if they're okay, off camera. Are you okay? How are you going to be? And I think the natural reaction, and they say, yeah, I'm going to be fine, but how do you really know how you're going to feel about something that horrible, in the days and weeks that come to pass? So I don't wish that on anybody, having to witness that. You watch movies and you're so desensitized to things of that nature, but to actually witness that in real life, perhaps blocks from where you live, I cannot even begin to imagine what that does to a person. And it's so tragic. And it just happened about a mile from us right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That brings to mind a little boy that Carrie talked to. I believe his name was Declan. He said he saw the plane go down. He saw the lights. He saw the lights on it. He didn't know if they were just general lights on the plane. Didn't see any flames on the plane, but he just saw lights in the plane coming down. And he looked like he was 10 years old. That's something that he will remember probably for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's got to shake you to your core. Our Josh Sanders also at the scene. Josh, earlier you were telling us that Governor Josh Shapiro was on his way to provide any details that he could share with us. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, just got another update from the governor's office. He should be here in another 10 minutes. They're just working logistics on getting the governor here to obviously, tell everyone just what he knows and if he's been in touch with the White House. I have spoken to a source in the White House who says the president is en route to Palm Beach right now, Florida, and I'm working to get details to see if the President Trump has indeed been briefed on the situation here. I was touched earlier when I believe Joe Holden said this was a Friday night. This was a Friday night 3 hours ago. A very busy area here. People getting ready for probably a much needed weekend after the week that this entire country has had in light of what's happened earlier this week in our nation's capital. And now you have this, and we do know that there were 6 souls, 6 people on that plane, that medical flight headed to Missouri. We don't know how many fatalities. You heard from Mayor Sherrell Parker here about 25-30 minutes ago, giving us some basic information of what they know right now. But one of the biggest things that I heard the mayor echo and continue to encourage people is if you aren't involved in this area, if you don't live here, if you're not a first responder or someone who needs to be here, don't be here right now. Don't be here right now, because there is so much information that they're gathering. We talked about the debris field. Where we are right now, our crew, we're obviously on the other side of Roosevelt Boulevard, where there's a number of media outlets here waiting to hear from Governor Josh Shapiro and officials. And, when I got here, I was about a 10-15 minute walk away from here. I couldn't get here on with the car. I had to walk here. And what I saw was, again, where the plane had made impact, a couple row homes that were affected, where there was that fire that fire officials had put out. And you could see debris 30, 40, 50 yards away in the Macy's, the Ross, the Roosevelt Mall parking lot. And again, just not having any details, but broadly just speaking with one law enforcement official that just said there could be remains of those that were impacted by this crash throughout that parking lot and throughout this area as they continue to investigate. So again, just to go back, we should hear from Governor Josh Shapiro, I'm told, in about 10 minutes. Obviously we will continue to, let you guys know and let everybody watching us right now when that happens, because I'm sure that the governor is going to want to, share what he knows right now and express, where his heart is, where his mind is right now. Just as everyone, this is a very surreal moment for many people.
Yeah.
And guys, I am seeing some movement when it comes to some of these some of the officers. So I'm wondering if they're getting ready to have the governor come over here. I'm going to toss it back to you because I want to get this mic set up and get us ready for that. All right,
Josh, you go ahead and get set up, and we will get back to you. We have a number of reporters there at this tragic scene.
And our Siafa Lewis, he is one of the people live at the scene for our team there. And Siafa, we understand you have somebody who can speak to more about what happened, who saw what went down there tonight.
Yeah, Janelle and Yuki, we're still in Bustleton, just off of Cotman, and these two gentlemen, co-workers, and I believe friends, were walking by and wanted to share something with us. This is Lewis, right?
Yep.
All right. Tell us what you saw tonight, Lewis.
We were just driving around and came through the clouds pretty much, just out of nowhere, and it just dive bombed straight to the ground. It was pretty crazy. Almost, you could say, it looked pretty intentional because planes just don't fall out of the sky like that. You know what I mean?
And you saw the fireball?
Yeah, I saw the fireball and everything. I was right up the road pretty much, and it was pretty insane, you know what I mean?
I had a woman tell me a little while ago that the intensity of the brightness in the sky was unlike something she'd seen in quite some time. Can you add anything to that? How bright was the sky?
Yeah, it was, it just lit up, big mushroom cloud that you can see for a couple of seconds. Obviously, it caused a lot of damage. There's a lot of cops here and everything like that. But yeah, it's just out of this world, you know what I mean? You don't see that every day, especially in a big city like this.
Reagan, from your perspective, what can you add?
I mean, it looked like it was falling for a little while because it came out of the clouds going in a straight nosedive, and the second it came through the clouds, it was probably only another second before it hit the ground, and it basically turned the night today.
Did you guys immediately leave the scene? Not the scene, but the area? What happened next?
We moved closer. We wanted to see the action.
See what happened, you know what I mean? Make sure everybody's all right.
And what did you see at that point?
At that point, it was just, cops were very responsive. They were here right away. A lot of people, just a lot of, carnage almost, you can say. Just a lot of terror.
Was there a lot of chaos? People running around?
Yeah, people running around. Just looking for a place to go. Make sure there's nothing else happening. You know what I mean?
And why are you guys still out here so many hours after the fact?
Just like we said, we might get a call, come back, check it out, everything like that.
All right, you guys stay safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys. So again, two more gentlemen who witnessed this horrible tragedy, and you can tell from their demeanor, also very sullen. It's just a lot to take in.
It really is. It really is. And when he said it turned the night into day, that really hit me. That explosion must have been massive.
And the fear, the terror, people not knowing what happened as they saw that fireball just explode in the sky there. Siafa Lewis with those eyewitness accounts. Siafa, thank you so much for
Appreciate it, Siafa. I believe Joe Holden is back with us on the phone now. Joe?
Hi, guys. And before we even play this video, I just want to give some context. So the two interviews that Siafa just had are about as good a description of an eyewitness account as you could get, because what you're about to watch exactly syncs up with what they described. You see at a door of a row home in Northeast Philadelphia, a husband and wife, a couple, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever they are, forgive me for the assumption, interacting. There's a wind chime playing. We don't have the sound, but there in the clouds is a searchlight.
And we're watching along with you, Joe, as you see that huge just light flare up in the air as the plane nosedives to the ground there. And you can see the shock on their faces as well.
The gentleman looks like he hears something.
Yeah.
And then he turns around, and that's what happened. Wow.
He hears the roar, the throttle of that Learjet's engines, and then the successive explosions. I count 3 to 4 as impact happens. Let's watch here.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Right, 2, 3, and then somewhat of a fourth here. And I am on a delay watching this over a monitor, but again, you hear it down to wind chimes, and they're talking, and then this.
And just like the gentleman said, it did turn night into day with that massive explosion, and we saw the video, it turned into a mushroom cloud as well.
And you saw them go back inside, probably wondering what just happened here. What was that exactly? All of the people in that area wondering what happened. As we continue to get more details, we do want to note our Josh Sanders said he was in touch with some of his sources at the White House who say that President Trump is actually on his way to Florida. But the president did post a statement on his social media platform, Truth Social, saying, quote, "So sad to see the plane go down in Philadelphia. More innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged. First responders are already being given credit for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all." That coming from President Trump this evening.
It's been 3 hours. The moment of impact was recorded on a Ring camera roughly at 6:07. The first calls went out at 6:12 of a plane down in Northeast Philadelphia, just in front of the Roosevelt Mall in Northeast Philly. Row homes shook. A debris field of fire was seen throughout, a long strewn debris field, and this is the result. We are 3 hours now into our coverage as investigators are on the scene right now, trying to make sure, first of all, people are okay, the people that were affected, because there were reports, early reports of people being injured. Here's the part of the Roosevelt Mall, a pharmacy there, and we're looking past the mall, and the flames behind the mall. That's just unbelievable. It's been quite a night here in our city.
And the debris just spewing across that neighborhood there. We're told that some parts of the plane are believed to have hit cars. We see some of those row homes on fire. And at this point, we're still waiting for an update from officials as to how many people on the ground were injured.
And Mayor Parker just spoke just a short time ago. And here's, if you're just joining us, here's some of what she said.
An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now, we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation.
Mayor Parker with an emotional plea, once again, to please stay away from this, as this plane, a Learjet, goes down just after 6 o'clock this evening, almost 3 hours ago. The investigation continues, and as the mayor said, if you're in that area, or even if you're not in that area and are curious, please don't go. Please don't go. Let the authorities do what they have been trained to do and begin this investigation.
And as you can imagine, this is a challenge for investigators, sort of assessing where exactly the debris fell, what homes were impacted, how many people were hurt or injured. Our Carrie Corrado, she's been on the scene following this all for us. Carrie, what can you tell us?
We actually just saw the FBI here on scene. There was a group of them walking around. We also saw the Red Cross here. They have been going up to a lot of people who are standing around here, telling them if your home was affected, that there are SEPTA buses here to help them and give them some shelter until they can figure everything out. So there's a lot of help out here. Like I mentioned earlier, it's all hands on deck. Every firefighter, every police officer is out here trying to help these people who were affected. I did speak with a man who says he saw the explosion after the crash, and then he got out of his car and ran. It seems like a lot of people were in the area, and when it happened, they just took off and left their cars there. I also spoke to a few people who saw the plane coming down, and then a lot of people who live nearby and say their houses shook. But this entire area is gridlocked. It's extremely hard to get around here. Streets and roads are blocked off. We were rerouted all over the place. It's also raining. The rain is starting to pick up, so this has definitely been pretty tough for these investigators to go around and process the scene and evidence. But overall, neighbors out here concerned, worried for each other, and just hoping everybody is okay from all of this.
And Carrie, can I ask you, we heard the mayor make that urging residents in that area to stay inside. Are you seeing that people are heeding that warning at this point?
Not so much. A lot of people are standing on the outskirts of the yellow police tape, and they're really just trying to figure out what's going on. They want answers. Many of them have their cell phones out, filming whatever they see. Keep in mind, this is a heavily populated area, so there's a lot of businesses, homes, and people shop around here. So a lot of people were here at this time and have videos of all of this and have been sharing videos of all of this. So we just swung the camera around so you could see here are some people just standing on the other side of this yellow police tape, really just trying to figure everything out. Many of them sharing stories with me of things that they saw, asking me what I know. So a lot of questions out here. But again, like I mentioned, everyone just wants everyone to be okay. But if we actually point the camera over, I can show you, I can see a lot of investigators over in the parking lot of some of these restaurants. We can see FBI. It seems like a group of them, the checkpoint where all of them are gathering, trying to get the information right and figure out their next move. So we're seeing a lot of that, but as you can also see, the rain's starting to pick up.
Right.
So it's definitely been difficult as they try to process all of this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Carrie, I can see the rain behind you beating on the asphalt there. That looks to be have slowed the investigation down a little bit, or at least the movement anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, it starts to pick up throughout the night. A lot of these police officers, investigators, FBI, they're on scene trying to collect evidence. They're trying to process all of this in the rain. So it definitely makes things a lot more difficult. But as you can see, look at all these police officers, the flashing lights. Every police officer's out here. Every firefighter's out here trying to make sure everyone's okay. So it's definitely a team effort.
All hands on deck for sure. All right, Carrie, you stand by. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Once again, you're watching live coverage. A plane has crashed near Cottman Avenue and the Roosevelt Boulevard in front of the Roosevelt Mall. It happened just after 6 o'clock. 6 people on board, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient who we understand was a child patient, and a family member. They were on the Learjet 55. That's a private medical transport plane going from Philadelphia to Springfield, Missouri.
And we did hear from the owner of the plane, and the statement that they released to us earlier this evening stated that they could not confirm whether there are, in fact, any survivors. But you have to imagine, Yuki, watching that fireball. You can only imagine what happened on that flight.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And we're watching the coverage. As I mentioned, the rain was coming down pretty good, and the FBI and a lot of the police officers were just, you can tell by their body language, things have slowed down just a little bit as far as their investigation. I'm sure they're going to get right back to it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and the mood there is so somber.
Oh, yeah, somber.
So
somber.
Siafa was telling us earlier that one of the witnesses he spoke with actually saw some human remains. So while we have not heard confirmation from authorities, this certainly is a tragic situation here.
And you're watching videotape right now. I just want to put that out there as well of what happened earlier. We got a call maybe about an hour and a half ago that the majority of these fires, probably all of them, are under control and have been put out. And it is, once again, raining right now, Grant, and as we mentioned, that has probably slowed the investigation down a bit, but the rain is falling.
Yeah, rain's falling, and I've been looking back at the conditions around the time of the plane crash and then looking at the conditions now because you want to see what were those weather conditions at the time of the crash. This is the radar right at the time we're hearing at 6:07 earlier this evening. Temperatures coming from the airport there, the Northeast Philadelphia Airport. We're at 48 degrees. I'm going to take it a little bit closer, so I'm going to put on the live radar right now. So live radar, you've got that yellow. Now, I've made it a little more transparent so we can still see some of the topography, the streets and everything around there. That swipe that you just saw was a new scan of our radar. So we're dealing with probably some of the heaviest rain that we've had in the area, at least.
Our reporters near the scene, keeping an eye on the scene there and also the officials that we are expecting to hear from tonight. Brianna.
Yeah, Shar, we already heard from Mayor Sherrell Parker, and we're waiting for Governor Josh Shapiro to make his way here. But we have confirmed that officials say 6 people were on board, 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and an escort were on board. They cannot confirm any survivors at this time. But again, we are waiting for Governor Josh Shapiro to make his way here. And as Mayor Sherrell Parker said earlier, it's all hands on deck here. We see several first responders still here on scene investigating, and we're working to learn more. And once we have Governor Josh Shapiro here, we will take that live so you can hear from him.
Brianna, thanks for your reporting from there. We are on standby. This important enough, critical enough that the governor of Pennsylvania is making his way here to Philadelphia.
Brianna, we know you have been on the scene for quite some time. Earlier in our breaking news coverage, there were buildings on fire behind you. There were rescue crews behind you. Has that calmed down a bit now? What are you seeing at this point?
Yeah, actually, Gray and Shari, I've been keeping an eye on that building that we mentioned earlier. We showed you about 2 hours ago where there was smoke coming from behind the Cottman Food Building. And as you can see, we no longer see that smoke there. So firefighters have everything under control. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, several first responders remain here on scene. This is the most first responders that I've ever seen at an incident in Philadelphia. So that just speaks to how massive this incident is. And they're here investigating. And as Mayor Sherrell Parker said, they're here to make sure that everyone's health and safety is the top priority. And she said it's all hands on deck here. She also made it a point to say, keep everyone impacted, those who were on the plane, those who were on the ground and in the surrounding area, keep them in your prayers. They did not confirm the number of fatalities at this time, but, you know, we're thinking about all of them and our hearts go out to their families. She also said that first responders are here on scene evaluating. There's a lot of debris on the ground. She said do not pick up that debris, but instead call 911. And for those who are living in the surrounding homes, to stay inside so that first responders can do their jobs as they investigate.
Brianna, thank you for your reporting. Again, just when it hit close to home, it just feels different.
Yeah.
We are in total shock, as is our community there in Northeast Philadelphia. Again, this medical transport jet slamming into the ground there in Northeast Philadelphia. We're told it was in the air for about 30 seconds before it went down, erupting there in a ball of flames. Happened right near Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard a little after 6. And as we continue to watch this breaking news story, what is probably most jarring is to hear from those eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
This is their community. Their families live there. People going about their everyday lives. Some people walking down the street. We saw a doorbell camera of an individual, a man leaving his home, possibly saying goodbye to his wife. And you see the plane go down behind him, explode. We hear the explosion and you hear whomever that woman was screaming, oh my God, as he runs back into the house.
You know, residents and city leaders all over the area are reaching out. They're watching our coverage. They're texting me, and heavy hearts. People out there are really expressing that this is tough. And it's just compounded by what our nation has experienced with the collision that took the souls of 67 people right near Reagan National Airport. Now this is just really adding to the sadness and the uneasiness that people are feeling. So just know we hear you, and we know that sentiment is resonating across the city of Philadelphia, across this region. Again, it's Philadelphia that is in the spotlight tonight. This is making national headlines, so much so because of what happened just less than 48 hours ago. Actually, just about 48 hours ago. It was just around 9 o'clock when that Black Hawk collided with the passenger jet over the Potomac River in our nation's capital. That was Wednesday, just about 9 o'clock. And here we are, Friday, just about 9:30 on the East Coast, and we are covering another plane crash, one that at this point, we've got no word that there are survivors. What we can confirm from numerous sources the FAA and also the owner that was operating the Learjet 6 people were on board that Learjet 55 when it crashed just after 6 o'clock. This Learjet was not in the air long at all. The first text I got tonight was at 6:11, letting me know, Shari, there's a plane down in Northeast Philadelphia. And we heard from Annie McCormick in her reporting that the jet took off just about 6:06. So we know that this plane was not in the air long at all and only traveled barely 4 miles before it crashed.
And Shari, as we continue our breaking news coverage, we continue to hear from eyewitnesses who saw this horrible situation. Action News reporter Jessica Catalia remains there on the scene. Jessica, you've been speaking to witnesses. What are you hearing from individuals you're speaking to tonight?
Well, Gray, this is such a busy area, especially this time of night. As soon as I arrived here on scene, I started talking with people who were just in shock. They said, we can't believe that this has happened. We just saw this plane go down. One gentleman that I spoke with was working out right across the street here. There's an LA Fitness, and he said that the weights started coming off the walls. They thought it was a bomb that they had heard or felt. Looked outside, and they saw what they thought was a mushroom cloud. But take a listen to what he has to say.
I was at the gym and somebody said there was a crash. We went outside and we didn't think anything of it, but we thought a car crash. And then we saw this big fireball in the sky, and I kind of walked over to it, and there was 3 different fires, a plane in the middle of Common Ave, and all these cops were screaming, leave, 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 driving all over the parking lot. It was crazy. It was mayhem.
And another man that I spoke with a short time later was in shock, and he said, it just appeared as though things were raining from the sky. As I mentioned earlier, people were driving, and pieces of that plane, the debris, started hitting their car. This gentleman that
There was people running back and forth. There was so much stuff happening.
and mention, people were saying that there were, and I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but there were pieces of body parts on cars, and it was just, some of it was just too gruesome to discuss. But people, again, it's going to take some time to really get over this. It was just a shocking situation here. Again, the roads are still closed behind me as police continue to investigate. We have seen some movement. They pulled the tape down. They just put that tape back up. We also see several SEPTA buses there. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on in that parking lot behind me here. We're also hearing more and more emergency vehicles coming up. And again, not a lot of movement as far as commercial vehicles or people who are typically in this area this time of night as this investigation continues. But we're going to stay on the scene and bring you as much as we can as this rain really picks up. Some of the people that have witnessed this have since gone home. We spoke with a gentleman earlier who said that he could not get a hold of one of his family members, and so he raced over here just to make sure that everything was okay. And then again, videos are being shared like wildfire because people just can't believe this scene. Back to you.
Jessica, I do want to pick up on what you said about the scene and that the crime tape being put back up. One of the messages I received from one of the commanders is they are asking some of their units to continue to work extra tonight and possibly tomorrow, extra units, and this in part to help with traffic in this area because the crime scene, the crash scene is so large that they are now speaking with some of the first responders around the city to be prepared to maybe come in on their off day if they thought they were going to be off tomorrow, trying to get some more manpower to help hold this scene, keep it intact as best they can, despite the weather, despite the nighttime, despite actually how populated the area is. And we are getting a lot of new video. More and more of our viewers are sharing the video that they're seeing and have experienced tonight.
They are, and as we continue to talk about the time this all happened, we just saw a piece of video with that timestamp reading 6:07:02:03 there as the plane went down there. A horrific scene playing out there in Northeast Philadelphia as these videos continue to come in. Our Christy Aletto is monitoring those videos from our SAT Center. Christy, we are just all in shock and just devastated by this. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've been monitoring the feeds here in our SAT Center, and of course, all of the videos that our viewers have been sending into our newsroom. But I want to go back to just, here's what we know right now for those who are just joining us. 6 people were on that medical chopper. We know that 4 of them were crew, 1 pediatric patient, 1 escort. That was a plane, or the aircraft that was bound for Springfield, Missouri. It had just taken off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport when it crashed on Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. And now I want to go to some of the viewer video that has just been inundating our newsroom. Aftermath, rather, outside of the Dunkin' Donuts, debris all over the parking lot. And we know that some of our ground reporters that were there at the scene talking to witnesses saying that in some cases they saw body parts. I mean, obviously we would not show that, and we're not showing any of that, but I mean, you can see debris possibly from vehicles, possibly from the aircrafts, anything that it hit, and from the impact of that crash scattered throughout that parking lot, to give you an idea of just how intense that was. And then another vantage point, this ring cam video of the crash happening on Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. There's a couple, or rather, here we go. This is a different vantage point right here, and you can see this flash, this fireball just happen in the corner of your screen. The camera pans up, and then you see this large plume of smoke just billowing out of the top from behind row homes. And so then that's how it gives you an idea of where this is happening. So the first video is showing you that it's happening in a business district. The second video is showing you that it is happening in a neighborhood that is populated. This is on a Friday evening when a lot of people would have been out. They might have been at their homes having dinner with their families, and now they're experiencing and hearing and witnessing the shaking of just the impact of this plane, this chopper crashing into the ground. And then another video here, this is the drone video. And I think this also speaks to what Shari was saying, because they need extra crews to work tonight and tomorrow because of the size of this crash site. This drone video actually giving us a bird's eye view of just how large this scene is right here. And it looks, you know, just from what we can see from the video, that it spans a couple of blocks, maybe a handful, if that. And so you can see that, as Mayor Sherelle Parker had said around 8:30, that there were homes that were impacted, there were vehicles that were impacted. So we know the number of people that were on that helicopter. We don't know how many people were in those homes that have been impacted, you know, that were on fire, the vehicles that were on fire. We don't know how many people were inside of those cars. And so that's something that I think we're going to be waiting and working to try to piece together, as investigators try to piece together, you know, how this happened, and again, who has been impacted in this. And yes, this is absolutely devastating, because it pales in comparison to what, of course, we saw in Washington, D.C., but then at the same time, you hear about the people that were on board, and we only have a snapshot of who they may or who they might be. And then you think about the pediatric patient that's on board, and you think about their parents and their families. I know as a parent that just really kind of is a knife in my heart thinking about that. So certainly something that we're going to be following, and obviously our prayers go out to those individuals and to those families that are impacted.
Our thoughts absolutely with the families. And
has tweeted that there were 6 people on board. You know, we understand that to be the 2 pilots, 2 medical professionals, a pediatric patient, and likely a relative of that patient. You know, we know the NTSB is almost assuredly going to investigate this accident. They investigate any fatal aviation accident, so we expect they will be sending investigators to the scene. And, you know, one of the things that they'll work to determine, the Lear 55 is an older airplane. It may or may not be equipped with the black boxes that we think of when we think of an aviation crash. Many Lear jets do have some data recorder. They'll look to try to determine if they can locate that. Obviously, something went horrifically wrong shortly after this plane took off.
Chris, if there is no black box, that will, I would assume, hamper.
The average reader reads 200 words per minute. In work, the more you know, the better your decisions are, and the better your career grows. And there's no better way to get through long PDFs.
They have been able to investigate accidents in aircraft that don't have data recorders or don't have voice recorders. There will be evidence amongst the wreckage that will be able to help guide them in what may have happened. At the very least, what they'll be able to start doing is understanding what did not go wrong. It's clear the jet had power, so they'll be able to look at what's left of the engines and likely determine whether they were operating at the point of impact.
No.
So that yes, you can solve an investigation even if there are not data recorders, a black box, a voice recorder.
Chris, what do you make of the fact that this plane went down at the angle that it did? The video that we've been showing shows it going nosediving, essentially at a 45-degree angle. The fact that it went down so quickly after takeoff.
Well, I'd be speculating as to what happened after takeoff. It certainly appears to be a situation where the pilots were not in control of the airplane. So, what could cause a situation like that? Investigators will want to know if the airplane stalled. Did something happen on the flight deck to one of the pilots? Could there have been a medical emergency? There's all kinds of things that could have gone wrong. It appears clear for the plane to come out of the sky like a missile like that, that something led to a loss of control, a loss of normal flight.
So your professional opinion, this could be a very, very long investigation.
NTSB investigations typically last about a year. Generally speaking, answers come, but they don't come quickly, and everybody wants to know right now. That's one of the frustrating parts for people, I think, when they're waiting for an NTSB investigation, is, they'll tell you what they see fairly quickly when they get on scene, like we're seeing playing out here in Washington, D.C. right now. They'll tell us what they know. They're not going to know a lot right away. And then it'll be 30 days or so, and then we'll get a preliminary report. That'll be a statement of facts. That'll be what they know at that point. We'll draw no conclusion. And then the final conclusions won't be drawn until that report is done. That typically is a year.
And what complicates this, Chris, is the fact that this accident occurred in a very densely populated area of the Northeast Philadelphia community there, and there is quite a wide debris field as well. So that's something else that investigators will be dealing with as they start collecting evidence and collecting the debris.
The NTSB is very good at what they do. So I think what is most remarkable when you look at where this plane came down and the way it came down, and the amount, the size of the explosion we saw related to this plane, there's a lot of fuel on board, clearly, is that it came down, largely it appears in a street. Think about if that's a row of row homes, if that's an apartment building, we are talking about a much different tragedy.
Wow. Unbelievable. Chris, stand by real quick, because I just want to review with our viewers that 6 people, as you mentioned, were on the plane. 6 people, 2 pilots, a child patient, and a family member. And we've just confirmed that juvenile patient finished treatment in Philadelphia and was going to be transported back to Mexico. I just wanted to pass that on.
Just heartbreaking to hear these details. And we also have some new pictures as we talk with you, Chris, from State Representative Jared Solomon, showing the aftermath of the scene here. And Chris, I don't know if you can see what we're seeing, but there are the shells, charred shells of what were cars on the ground here, cars that caught fire after the plane crashed to the ground. And we're told that there are a number of injuries from people who were on the ground at the time that the plane went down as well.
Chris, would you have any idea of how many pounds of jet fuel would be on a Learjet 55 like this? You said it was an older model. I think we had reports earlier that if it was full, it could be something like 7,000 pounds.
That sounds in the realm of possibility. I mean, the Lear can also have an external fuel tank. But yeah, you had thousands of pounds of fuel most likely. on that airplane. It was gearing up for, a flight towards a long flight for that airplane.
Wow.
And as we were looking at these new images and video coming into our newsroom from some of our viewers who were there at the scene, we're seeing businesses that look as though they were pretty badly damaged as well, in addition to these cars, those homes that caught fire. Chris, tell us, the NTSB now on the ground. We also know the ATF, they're there too. What would be the first steps? At this point, we know first responders are still assessing injuries, trying to account for people in those homes. But what will be the first step for NTSB investigators tonight?
Well, the NTSB will wait until it's clear that there is no one in immediate danger, that people that have been accounted for, that there aren't injured that need to be treated. So once that active first responder emergency scene has been handled, they'll take over. What they're going to want to understand is, and they should be able to get this information, was that plane equipped with a cockpit voice recorder, a cockpit data recorder? If yes, they're going to want to try to find the section of that airplane where those devices would be. Those devices are designed to go through a crash, so they can get beaten up pretty badly and still yield information. So you'd want to find that as quickly as you can, and then they're going to want to look at whatever other, what they would call perishable evidence, might be there. Things that you need to collect quickly. And from there, then you can start a methodical forensic investigation. They will likely take the wreckage somewhere and go through it.
Could you stress the importance of what our mayor has said as far as when it comes to finding and seeing any evidence in the debris field, not to touch it, but to call authorities?
Yeah, think about it basically as any part of that airplane is part of what amounts to a CSI episode. They need to know what that piece is, and that could be a crucial piece. So, they don't touch it. Notify the police. They will send somebody to get it.
And Chris, as you're talking, we are watching again this just horrifying video of the plane going down and that fireball in the sky. This happened just after 6 o'clock tonight in Northeast Philadelphia.
Chris, we appreciate your reporting both with us now and, of course, after that mid-air collision over the Potomac River. Thank you, and we will, of course, get back to you.
Sure thing.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much. Chris Van Cleve from our CBS correspondent.
That's right.
Wow.
So we were hearing earlier that the Governor Josh Shapiro, he's on his way to the scene. We're expecting to hear from him minutes from now. But if you are just joining us, it is now 9:47 on this Friday night. It's now been about 3.5 hours since this first unfolded. We got reports of this plane that was taking off from Northeast Airport in Philadelphia, heading for Missouri, a medical flight with 6 people on board, a child who was the patient, one of the child's family members, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, when that plane went down, crashing near Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. The owners of the plane company, telling us that they cannot at this point confirm whether there were any survivors from this crash. It does not sound good. They say they are still waiting to notify family members of those who were on board.
And again, we have just confirmed that a juvenile patient finishing treatment in Philadelphia was on that plane with a family member and 2 doctors and 2 pilots, and that child was going to be transported back to Mexico. Then this happened after 6 o'clock this evening. Moments after takeoff, this Learjet 55 crashes to the ground on a 45-degree angle. Very, very early, no answers right now. Investigators, the NTSB, FAA, will be on the scene trying to figure this all out. Why something like this happened just moments after takeoff.
And this is a tragedy on just so many levels. I mean, you know, for this child who had just, we have some of the best children's hospitals here in Philadelphia. This child from Mexico, you can imagine finishing their treatment, their family member probably eager to get home back to their loved ones there. And for this to happen, as their families wait for news, maybe not even realizing what happened. And then also for those who are on the ground here, we're not sure how many people who were in that Northeast Philadelphia community at the time, how many of them may have been injured. But as we've been hearing from our reporters who have been working their sources, who have been speaking with witnesses at the scene, it sounds like the outcome here was grim tonight.
Wow. We're still waiting for officials to get back with this. As you mentioned, Governor Shapiro will be speaking soon. He's on his way. The mayor has spoken already. I'm sure she will return as well. But this is what they will be discussing. This is what they will be discussing. This horrific accident that happened this evening on Friday night, a busy Friday night in this Northeast Philadelphia community, right in front of the mall, the Roosevelt Mall, near the entrance. And then moments after takeoff, just after 6 o'clock, 6:07, one Ring camera reported. And here's a family that heard something, turned around,
and you see them. And to clarify, the flight was going from Philadelphia to Springfield, Missouri, but the child was being treated here in Philadelphia, and it was eventually going to be transported to Mexico, according to the sources who have been communicating with us. But it is just heartbreaking, Yuki, especially after the week that the country has had with the crash outside of Washington, D.C., and now to see this right here in our own backyards as we look at these images on the screen right now, the fire in that community. And you can only imagine the fear and the concern and how frightened the people might have been on the ground. We heard people screaming as they saw this. We're looking live now at the mayor, the governor, and the police commissioner about to come up to the microphones here as we are going to get an update from them on the situation at this point. Let's take a listen.
Again, for joining us. I want to give a quick recap of the information we shared earlier, and then we will give you some additional facts. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue, and it did occur shortly after 6 p.m. Again, we have no reports on the number of fatalities, so we are asking everyone for their thoughts and prayers for all who may have been impacted and affected by this tragedy. Several dwellings and vehicles were also impacted, and so we are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please, if you see anything. Investigators and all of our federal, state, and local partners are working as expeditiously as possible during this very difficult time. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now available at the Samuel Fells High School located at 5500 Langdon Street. Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street. If anyone has been impacted and you need shelter and support, it is readily available for you. In terms of our federal and state partners, I want to say a special thank you to the NTSB. They are here on site now. The FAA, the Pennsylvania State Police, Pennsylvania DEP, of course our police and fire departments, and OEM. I am here with Governor Shapiro. We've been in constant contact since it started. You'll be hearing from him shortly. But I also want to say a special thank you to our additional partners who we have spoken with, our federal leaders, U.S. Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Thank you so very much. All hands on deck. They wanted to make sure any and everything that we needed from the federal government, those supports and services are available. Congressman Evans, Boyle, and Scanlon, our congressional delegation, a special thank you to each of you for your support. I also need to affirm that locally here, Senator Joe Picozzi, Rep. Solomon, Reps. Nielsen, Doherty, who represents this area, and Bellman, Commissioner Dealey, and Councilmember Driscoll was present. If there was ever a time when we needed to affirm what the One Philly philosophy means, the time is now, and I'm very proud about how our federal, state, and all of our local partners are working hard to deal with this tragedy. I now want to turn it over to our governor and to say thank you, Governor, for your support and being here with us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. The mayor preaches about One Philly. She talks about a unified approach to governing every day. What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another. I want to reaffirm the comments the mayor said about all of the different agencies working together, and I want to especially thank and salute Philly Fire and Philly Police, who did an extraordinary job this evening. We know that there will be loss in this region, and we want to offer our thoughts and our serious prayers for those who are grieving at this moment. The mayor knows, and I want you all to know, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania stands firmly with our partners in the city. We have, at the request of Commissioner Bethel, 45 state troopers who are on the ground right here in Northeast Philly. We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard,
is there no room for debate on college campuses anymore? 60 Minutes brings you to the new university that is demanding it.
The stakes are that high. If our universities are screwed up, and I believe they are, then that will screw up America as a whole quite quickly.
PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, who offered his full support to Northeast Philly. And as the mayor alluded to, he has dispatched 4 members of the FAA to Philly, and there are 4 members of NTSB on their way as well. We have all the resources that we need. And again, as the mayor always says, One Philly, we are unified in our approach to deal with this emergency. And again, I'll just end by sharing my prayers, the prayers of my wife, Lori, our First Lady, and on behalf of 13 million Pennsylvanians, we are all here for Northeast Philly tonight in this very, very difficult moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all. When we have additional information to report, we will come back and give another briefing. But now we want to let our federal, state, and local partners do their jobs and go to work. We'll report back to you when we have more information. Thank you all so very much for your patience and understanding.
Mayor Sherrill Parker, joined by Governor Josh Shapiro and other city and state officials there at the podium microphone, a makeshift microphone area that they've put together so that they can keep the public informed. That's just at a gas station right near there in Northeast Philadelphia, where officials are gathering on this rainy, cold night because of this incident.
And we know this is a mass joint effort. The mayor alluding to the different agencies that are there, the National Transportation Safety Board, the FAA, State Police, Philadelphia PD, and of course Fire Department. And you heard the governor saying that this is a unified response to an awful aviation situation. He's saying we are seeing a Philly response, neighbors helping neighbors, and people coming together in this time of tragedy and need. And the mayor alluding again tonight that at this point we do not know the number of fatalities, but we do know the 6 individuals on that aircraft that went down did not make it. We're learning tonight that those on board were 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and 1 other person believed to be a family member of that patient. This happening a little after 6 when that aircraft, that Learjet 55, goes down there in northeast Philadelphia, erupting in that massive fireball there. Witnesses describing what they saw, what they heard, saying that the night sky lit up as a result of that explosion. We know buildings were on fire, cars were on fire. Sadly, we saw people walking in that area in flames.
The Learjet 55, it crashed just after 6 o'clock, and we know that it departed from the airport in northeast Philadelphia there. The hope was for this Learjet, which was on a medical assignment, to make its way to an airport in Missouri. What we know is that did not happen. The plane was only in the air for a short amount of time before it crashed. And so we've been getting the images from our viewers all night since this happened. And the images, of course, have been devastating, showing all of the fire and the plane crash, of course, right after it happened. You're watching Action News at 10 on PHL 17. We're also simulcasting on 6 ABC. I'm Shari Williams alongside Gray Hall. This is our continuing coverage here on Action News in regards to the breaking news. This Learjet 55 that crashed just after 6 o'clock in northeast Philadelphia.
Across this state, the mayor and the governor on scene there wrapping up a presser not that long ago. This, of course, discussing this awful tragedy that unfolded right there in northeast Philadelphia. That Learjet 55 crashing tonight a little after 6. You can hear in the background as we watch this piece of video a woman saying, "Oh my God, oh no, oh no." We know tonight 6 people were on this aircraft. 4 crew members, a pediatric patient, and another person believed to be the family member of that patient. We do not know how many lives were lost tonight, but we know lives were lost. This happening just miles away from northeast Philadelphia Airport. That plane set to be in the air for roughly some 30 seconds.
About some 130 to 150 firefighters from the Philadelphia Fire Department to respond to this and to get the fires under control. There were numerous hot spots. Debris was flying and also fire was flying as a result of this crash, followed by an explosion that followed from the crash itself. The fire department did its job to get this perimeter calm and under control. We now know that the NTSB is on the ground. The governor, Josh Shapiro, has traveled to be here in Philadelphia tonight to be with our city officials because this is a gripping event. As he called it, an awful aviation disaster. But we are seeing the best of Philly, and Pennsylvanians are looking out for one another.
We switch now to Action News reporter Annie McCormick, who is at the northeast Philadelphia airport where that ground stop, I imagine, Annie, is still in place.
It is still in place, and that ground stop is specifically because of the plane crash. It seems obvious, however, I'm saying that because of the inclement weather. It was incredibly foggy. There was also a lot of rain as well. Now, the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance took off from here a little bit after 6 o'clock, and according to the company, who did release a statement, it crashed at 6:25 at the Boulevard and Cottman. On board 6 people. The company saying that included 4 crew members, an escort, and also a pediatric patient. In regards to the 4 crew members, my sources are telling me it was 2 pilots and 2 healthcare professionals. Either they were medics, nurses, or doctors, or interchangeable. And additionally, the pediatric patient, the escort with the pediatric patient, was in fact a family member. So you just looking at that video there of the FAA, you just heard in that press conference, Governor Shapiro talk about how 4 members of the NTSB are on scene, 4 members of the FAA are on scene. We were here when they began arriving here to Atlantic Aviation. Atlantic Aviation hasn't confirmed that the flight left here. However, we have heard from sources that the flight did take off from runway 24 here at Northeast Airport, again, just a little after 6 o'clock. But we started to see federal investigators arrive here. Of course, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, is a federal agency, an independent federal agency, and so they are going to be tasked with gathering the evidence and going through. It's going to be a very long process in order to get everything together, since the square footage alone is huge from the amount of debris that is spread over that area of Northeast Philadelphia, which is probably one of the busiest areas of the city in regards to the commercial businesses, residences, and also just so much traffic. Cottman Avenue is so busy, the boulevard, all of that traffic at that time. And of course, their initial response had to do with making sure everybody was okay, tending to people that were injured. So their first approach when regards to our first responders isn't necessarily to worry about collecting the debris. So there's a number of things that they've already been out here to look at. In regards to the tower, we know FAA. We did see Philadelphia police here. That's my voice, actually, just pointing out that the FAA was here when that video was rolling. But when they initially got out here, Philadelphia police were here, and we do know that there were detectives that were in the tower, and we're told that at least 1 federal investigator was there as well. The information they're gathering there is sort of the nuts and bolts information that needs to be gathered. That includes the final transmissions, that includes final communication between the tower and between the pilot. Whether there was any communication, I do not know at this time. When you look at those apps, which were the flight tracker apps, you could see that it was just a short distance from this airport. It's so close to where the Boulevard and Cottman is, that it looks like the plane was only in the air for a very brief amount of time. Now, according to the flight tracker apps, this plane was headed towards Springfield, Missouri. This is a Learjet, and so I am not an aviation expert, so I don't know if this is the type of jet that needs to be refueled at some point, depending on where it's going. So we don't know if the ultimate destination was to Springfield, Missouri, or if it was stopping for another reason. But we do know that this was a medical flight. Earlier I was talking about it, Gray and Shari, and all the stories that we cover in regards to medical flights that we've done stories about before. There's a variety of types. There's the angel flights where people, donate their time in their plane to escort patients that might need a certain procedure or medical care that they can't get in their region. We don't know if that was the situation here. There's also those flights that are able to transport organs to get to, a patient that needs it in a critical amount of time as well. It appears that this flight was the pediatric patient that was on board was also, we don't know exactly what the medical mission was for that patient at this point, but that's something that we're hoping to learn. But back out here, we're seeing a little bit more activity. I will tell you one thing we haven't seen any types of family members or anything like that out here. Pretty much right now, it's just investigators.
Okay, Annie, thank you for your reporting. You've been with us throughout this entire time tonight. Of course, we'll be coming back to you shortly. Let's talk more, though, about the that company that Annie was mentioning, this Learjet, actually owned by Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. We'll talk more about what we know about what they have said tonight in just a moment. Leland Pender, we want to go to you now. You're live, of course, at Jefferson Health. Tell us more about what you're learning about those who've been treated tonight.
Certainly, Shari. Well, we continue to see more ambulance come through here steadily every couple of minutes. I just saw an ambulance from Bensalem drive up the driveway here to the ER department at Jefferson Torresdale. As you can imagine, it is all hands on deck as emergency responders across the city, of course, and evidently outside the city as well, seeing that Bensalem ambulance here have been responding to this incident. It was a third alarm, and the response has just been incredible. Now, as far as people being treated here at Jefferson Torresdale, no exact numbers just yet, but I have been hearing throughout the night of a firefighter who was taken to a hospital for breathing problems, and also a child who was taken to a hospital in very bad condition. Not sure if that refers to burns or a physical injury, but at least one child in all of this being treated tonight. We're also hearing from Temple. Of course, there are multiple hospital systems in the area. Temple does tell us to this point they treated 6 patients tonight as a result of this plane crash. 3 of those patients were released from the hospital, and 3 remain at the hospital. In talking with officials with Jefferson Health, they referred all inquiries to the mayor's office. So we're waiting for an update there, although, of course, we have been hearing from the mayor throughout the night. I think we have heard from her twice now, that most recent press conference a short time ago, along with the governor, Governor Shapiro of the state of Pennsylvania, and others. But again, at this time, officials just don't know how many injuries we're talking about, how many fatalities we're talking about, but we know the number could possibly be great given what has happened. But again, let me just step out the way if I'm still on camera here, just show you what things look like at the hospital. That Jefferson Hospital police officer has been there as long as we have been here, blocking that entrance, only letting certain civilian vehicles come and go, but certainly when a police officer has arrived, when an ambulance has arrived, some with lights on, some with lights off, he backs up and lets them through. For those ambulances that have the lights on, that would presumably be an indication of the severity of whoever they may be transporting. When they have the lights off, that may indicate maybe the patient they're transporting is not as serious. That's just me, trying to determine or figure out what may be going on. But of course, we'll continue to monitor things here at Jefferson Torresdale. This hospital is about 15 or 20 minutes away from the crash scene in Northeast Philadelphia. So again, multiple hospitals, multiple hospital systems in the area, but this one is pretty close to where things happened earlier. So certainly a number of patients likely to be treated here. Back to you though, for now. Shari, Gray.
Leland, thanks for your reporting there. As we know, people have been transported to numerous hospitals tonight because of injuries and being hurt from this plane crash and the aftermath that followed. In regards to the crash itself and what we know about people who are hurt or any fatalities, if you've been following the coverage this evening, officials have not confirmed any fatalities or deaths. They want to make sure that they are accurate and right when they do that reporting. Not only that, the families that were definitely involved, connected to those who were on the Learjet, which are 6 people that were on board the Learjet, they need to make sure that they properly contact and respectfully reach out to those families. So not from the mayor, not from the governor, not from police, not the FAA, not a single agency has confirmed any deaths related to this tonight. They do fear, though, that will be the case. We just are not confirming any of that information as of yet, as they are doing their best to make sure the proper families are notified respectfully.
As we continue to watch this unfold tonight, we should mention, before we get to Action News reporter Jessica Curtalia, the Mayor Sherrill Parker, is saying that if you come into contact with debris, please don't touch that. Call 911. Jessica Curtalia live for us. She's been covering this tonight with us. Jessica, you've been in touch with witnesses who have seen this horrible situation unfold. What are you hearing tonight?
Well, Gray, I'm so glad that you mentioned that the mayor said don't touch anything. The scene here is significantly large, so I want to just kind of walk you through this a little bit without falling over ourselves. There is so much police tape surrounding this area. Common Avenue, Frankfurt Ave, all this, Cotman Avenue that you're looking at behind me here, completely blocked off. There are so many police units. People are unable to get back into their homes. This stretches for several blocks in all directions here. Normally this time of night, people would be swamping this area, heading out to dinner here, working out at the gym nearby. But of course, it is just empty as police continue to investigate. You're looking right now at this LA Fitness. We spoke with a guy earlier who said that he was working out when he heard that plane crash.
I was at the gym and somebody said there was a crash. We went outside and we didn't think anything of it, but we thought a car crash. And then we saw this big fireball in the sky, and I kind of walked over to it, and there was 3 different fires, a plane in the middle of Common Ave, and all these cops were screaming, leave, 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 driving all over the parking lot. It was crazy. It was mayhem.
And so many people said that they ran away from the scene, but also so many people ran toward the scene because they saw people getting hit with debris and they wanted to make sure that those victims were okay. I also want to show you this restaurant here behind me, Jolly Bee. They have been inviting all responding officers, EMTs, anyone who needs a bite to eat, especially people who have been displaced from their homes or just can't get over to their homes, something to eat, a place to use the restroom, water. So many people in this area keep pulling up to us asking if we know anything about their homes and if they're going to be okay and if their homes are still intact. And unfortunately, we don't have that information because, as I mentioned, we are several blocks away from these homes that they are referring to over here behind us. But so many people coming together. Shari, you mentioned this. This is absolutely Philly and Philly heart. People are out here helping one another. Lots of people concerned this evening, especially after what happened in Washington, D.C. Again, we're still trying to figure out exactly what caused that plane to go down just moments after taking off.
Jessica, thank you for your reporting from there. And one of the things you just hit on, though, about reaching out and helping our neighbors. The Red Cross is also on this scene tonight, there to assist those who might need it. We also know that Mayor Sherelle Parker made it clear that they have opened a shelter, and it is at Samuel Fells High School. Samuel Fells High School at 5500 Langdon Street. That is the address for the shelter. The high school is open. They have people there to assist you. If you know someone or you yourself has been impacted by this tonight and you need assistance to get through the evening, if you need to see if there's some resources for you, the shelter is at Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street.
And Shari, as we know, as we continue to watch this all continue to unfold tonight, a massive response from officials across the state. And just moments ago, you heard from Governor Josh Shapiro, who is also there on the scene. We want to switch now to Action News' Chris Cialetto live in our satellite center, who has been listening to sound from our governor about this horrendous and awful aviation disaster. Christy.
Yeah, well, as Shari was mentioning, that whole message of helping your neighbor, that was the message that Governor Josh Shapiro had when he came to the crash site, standing alongside Mayor Sherelle Parker and also some of our congressional delegation that represents Pennsylvania. He says that, you know, during the worst of times, that's when we often see the best in humanity, and Philadelphia and Pennsylvania are no different. Let's take a listen.
The mayor preaches about one Philly. She talks about a unified approach to governing every day. What you're seeing here is a unified response to an awful aviation disaster. For as awful as that aviation disaster was, tonight we also saw the best of Philly. We saw neighbor helping neighbor. We saw Pennsylvanians looking out for one another. I want to reaffirm the comments the mayor said about all of the different agencies working together, and I want to especially thank and salute Philly Fire and Philly Police, who did an extraordinary job this evening. We know that there will be loss in this region, and we want to offer our thoughts and our serious prayers for those who are grieving at this moment. The mayor knows, and I want you all to know, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania stands firmly with our partners in the city. We have, at the request of Commissioner Bethel, 45 state troopers who are on the ground right here in Northeast Philly. We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, who offered his full support to Northeast Philly. And as the mayor alluded to, he has dispatched 4 members of the FAA to Philly, and there are 4 members of NTSB on their way as well. We have all the resources that we need. And again, as the mayor always says, one Philly, we are unified in our approach to deal with this emergency. And again, I'll just end by sharing my prayers, the prayers of my wife, Lori, our First Lady, and on behalf of 13 million Pennsylvanians, we are all here for Northeast Philly tonight in this very, very difficult moment. Thank you, Mayor.
And earlier in the evening, we heard that from Mayor Sherrell Parker talk about how people need to stay away from this scene so that investigators can do their job. I want to go to some video that have been just pouring into our newsroom of residents who were at one point trying to process and verify what they heard or saw, and then suddenly inundating us with everything that happened. This is some video of, actually ring camera video of the impact of that crash. You saw the plume of smoke, where you saw the actual impact, the fireball, and then you see a mushroom cloud over row homes, and that gives you an idea of how close this is happening to where people live. This is happening in a neighborhood. And then there's video of the aftermath. Earlier we saw the Dunkin' Donuts and all the litter everywhere, and now this is the drone video. This is giving us a vantage point, an eagle eye of just how widespread this is. I mean, we've heard from our reporters that are on scene that are saying that this spans a significant area, at least 2 to 5 blocks. I know Shari at one point mentioned that more resources were being called to come in and try to process the scene and rope it off for the Philadelphia Police Department. And now we're really getting to see that this has impacted both residential and commercial business area. And this is an area that is heavily populated. It is dense. And on a Friday evening, a lot of people would have been out. And so we know that there were 6 people that were on that Learjet. We still don't know how many people were impacted that were on the ground. And certainly it does pale into comparison of what happened in Washington, D.C. But for us, this hits close to home. And these are people that are important, to their families. This is somebody's VIP. This is somebody's special person. And so we're obviously going to be pulling for those individuals as well. Shari and Gray.
Christy Aletto, thank you for that perspective and that sound from our governor tonight. We should mention, the mayor alluded to this earlier tonight, that if you are in need of shelter, there's a place that you can go. Samuel Fells High School, that location on your screen there, 5500 Langdon Street. Help is available if you need it. And as we talk about the injuries, I know the mayor is saying that they can't officially confirm any fatalities at this point, but we know that individuals have been transported to our local hospitals. Temple Jeans Hospital receiving 6 patients. 3 were released, 3 tonight, however, still in the hospital, said to be in fair condition. We're also hearing from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia saying that none of its patients were on board the plane and the flight was not affiliated with this hospital. We know throughout the night and coming days, these numbers will likely change.
And that's a big part of what we will be hoping to really get more information on through our reporting, because we're not really sure who was a part of those who were on board. So thankful to CHOP for letting us know this did not involve any of their patients, because of course people in our area want to know, is this a crew that originated from Philadelphia, from Pennsylvania, or could it have been a crew on this medical assignment just passing through the state of Pennsylvania or making a stop here? We will be looking to get more information from the FAA about the route that the plane was on, the members who were a part of those who were the 6 who were on board. All of that is part of the reporting we will continue to try to get more information on. We do know that the NTSB and the FAA, they are on the ground. We heard from Governor Shapiro confirming that there would be a crew of at least 4 NTSB members and 4 FAA members. Annie McCormick actually was there at the airport as some of the FAA members came in to work. And we know that they come in at a moment's notice, because in this country, we don't expect to see plane crashes the way we've seen in the last 48 hours. And we are tonight getting a response to everything happening here in Philadelphia from President Donald Trump. Tonight, he did post on his social media platform, Truth Social, and this is what it reads in part: more innocent souls lost. Our people are totally engaged. First responders are already being given credit for doing a great job. More to follow. God bless you all. That coming tonight from the White House. President Donald Trump reacting to this breaking news happening in Philadelphia, this plane crash with at least 6 people on board tonight.
And as we are hearing from leaders across this country, we heard, of course, from our mayor, Sherelle Parker, who was visibly shaken as she came out to the podium tonight. We also heard from our governor calling this a unified response to an awful aviation situation.
Yeah, a great time to really put partisan aside. And we're seeing that from our leaders. The mayor also mentioning our senators for the state of Pennsylvania reaching out. Fetterman, of course, a Democrat, and Mr. McCormick, who is a Republican. It's times like these we just need to reach out to these families who've been impacted and the devastation that's been felt in this city. The whole nation is tuning in and watching what's happening in Philadelphia tonight. Some of it, of course, because of what happened in our nation's capital, where we lost 67 people just 2 days ago in a plane collision with a helicopter. And now we have this crash going down close to home, close to us here in Philadelphia. Hearts are heavy tonight.
Indeed. We have reporters fanned out across our city tonight as we continue our breaking news coverage. Action News reporter Brianna Smith live for us. You've been here with us pretty much all night, Brianna. Bring us up to speed on what you're hearing and learning.
Yes, Gray and Sharon, as you can see, it's still very much an active scene. You see the flashing lights, you see the police vehicles, but it feels a bit calmer at this time. I mean, when we first arrived here, this whole area was covered with bystanders, some who had seen everything unfold, while others were here wondering what was going on. You had police officers putting up the yellow tape. Now it feels a bit calmer, but, you know, we're thinking about those who were impacted, those who were on the plane, those on the ground, and just them and their families, and we're keeping them in our thoughts and prayers tonight. Now, as we've mentioned, officials say 4 crew members and a pediatric patient and a family member were on board. At this time, they cannot confirm any survivors, and no names are being released at this time until the family members are notified. But Mayor Sherelle Parker says several dwellings and vehicles were impacted as well. And as we've seen in so many videos at this point, homes and vehicles were on fire and severely burned, and debris was just scattered everywhere. We also don't know how many people were injured, those who were on the ground or on the plane, but we saw people on stretchers being taken away. And as for the scene, as Mayor Sherelle Parker has said, you heard Jess say it as well, they say do not touch the debris, instead call 911 so that police can come, and it's part of the investigation. So neighbors also who live in the surrounding community, they ask that you stay in your homes, and if you need a shelter, if you were impacted in that way, they advise you to go to Samuel Fells High School for help. And, you know, again, this is just the very beginning of the investigation, so we can expect there to be more press briefings and more information to unfold. But as we've heard, you know, this is all hands on deck. This is a federal, state, local level where everyone's helping. We heard that everyone's working together. There's 45 state troopers on the scene, PennDOT, Emergency Management Authority, DEP, state state and federal leaders, the FAA and NTSB. Everyone's here on scene, evaluating, trying to figure out what happened here tonight. And again, this comes just days after the plane crash in the D.C. area. So we're thinking about them, but then we're also thinking about all those who have been affected at this crash here just in our own backyard. Shari and Gray.
So much for your reporting tonight. We should mention, as we continue to look at video of what is a devastating and heartbreaking and nightmarish situation, there is unity tonight.
Yeah.
We heard the governor say this is a awful aviation situation, but he says this is a Philly response. Times like these, times of tragedies, when you really see the heart of Philadelphia, you see neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping strangers in this desperate time of need, and we are seeing that tonight across our great city.
Speaking about unity, the Philadelphia Eagles, just about 20 minutes ago, posted this. The Eagles organization was heartbroken to learn of the tragic loss of life earlier this evening as a result of the plane crash in Northeast Philadelphia. We extend our condolences to the victims and loved ones they leave behind. We are grateful to the first responders for their heroic actions at the scene. Let me add that we are still waiting for confirmation from agencies that are close to the investigation to confirm any fatalities. Those agencies, though, have said that they are fearful that there may not be survivors on their aircraft, that Learjet 55 that crashed tonight. But the Philadelphia Eagles, a big part of this community, of course, preparing to go to the Super Bowl. They've got a big game coming up, but they tonight put out a message sending their condolences, saying they're heartbroken about the tragedy happening here in the city that they know so well and represent so well.
As we continue to follow this breaking news story, we want to bring in an expert now in on our breaking news conversation. We're joined now by Captain Ron Alvarado, a Marine and airline pilot. Captain, thank you so much for joining us tonight. First, another tragedy here in the United States of America involving a plane. Your reaction tonight to what you're hearing and what you're seeing here in Philadelphia.
Well, absolute shock. My thoughts and prayers go out to the pilots of the Learjet 55 and also the passengers on board, and especially the people on the ground and the citizens of Philadelphia. This is a traumatic experience. We just went through it down in Washington, D.C. So just a very, very shocking evening to hear about this unfortunate event.
We're being joined by Captain Ron Alvarado. You're watching Action News at 10 on PHL 17. We're also simulcasting on 6 ABC Action News. I'm Shari Williams alongside Gray Hall. Captain, is that the, yeah, Captain, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. And as Gray was alluding to about, you know, your initial reactions, is there something about this particular aircraft that you can share, this Learjet 55, that's being used
400 feet or sooner, I am turning to that heading. And again, this is all in the name of safety, because these very busy airspaces, Philadelphia, New York, DC, they have a lot of aircraft coming and going. So it is very important, it's paramount, that these pilots pay attention to the instructions given by air traffic control. So I would imagine these pilots, if everything was going fine, if there was no issues with the aircraft, they would have had to turn, or would have turned by their own will, to a westerly heading. So in other words, after departure, they would have made a right turn. They didn't do that. That's the first thing that stood out to me. And then 2 miles later, there's an impact near the Roosevelt Mall. So this is very concerning. Something was going on inside that aircraft. It could have been a control malfunction. It could have been anything and everything.
Captain, before we let you go, the checks that pilots need to go through, you know, what are those steps like for this crew that was thinking they were going to have yet another flight mission, one that I'm sure they've done many times before? This is their profession. You know, walk us through that for a pilot, the checks, the things you're making sure are in place before you take off.
Well, if they were continuing on from another flight, they're doing a walk around of the aircraft, or making sure that physically the exterior of the aircraft is in sound fit conditions. They're making sure that there's no fluids leaking. They're making sure all panels are tight. And then after the passengers are on board and the cabin is closed, the pilots are going through checklists. They're making sure that they're following all the procedures that is required to get this jet off of the ground safely.
Captain Ron Alvarado, Marine and pilot, thank you for your insight and your perspective on this tragedy here in Philadelphia. Our breaking news coverage continues now here at 10:37. We have been on the air for a better part of the night. I want to bring you up to date if you're just joining us on what is happening in our great city of Philadelphia. The FAA now on scene of this horrific crash that happened just after 6 right along Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. That Lear Jet 55 taking off from the Northeast Philadelphia Airport. 6 people on board, including a child. It is believed that everyone on board died. Tragic situation here. The mayor saying if you are in this area and you need shelter, there is a place for you to go. It's on your screen. It is Samuel Fells High School. It is open now if you need somewhere to go. Also, the mayor reminding people, if you see debris, don't touch that debris. Immediately call 911.
We are getting some new information confirmed here to Action News in regards to those who were on board. Shriners Children's Hospital has now put out a statement, and it says in part, Shriners Children's is heartbroken to confirm that one of our pediatric patients and the child's mother were aboard the Jet Rescue Air Ambulance that crashed in Philadelphia this evening. The patient had received care from Shriners Children's Hospital and was being transported back to her home country in Mexico on a contracted air ambulance when this crash happened. Because of patient privacy, of course, they're not really saying more at this time in regards to this young person's and the patient's identity and the family. But the statement goes on to say, Shriners Hospital is their hearts and prayers go out to the families of the medical crew and pilots who were also lost in this tragic event, as well as all of the people who were affected on the ground. And we're thankful to the first responders for their quick action. So this just into Action News. More confirmation as to who was on board. We're told that there were 6 people on board this Learjet 55 when it crashed. Now Shriners Children's is confirming that 2 of the people that were on board included a pediatric patient that was being treated by Shriners Children's Philadelphia and that person's mother at the time. And that those 2 were then to be transported back to their home country in Mexico. The patient was receiving care from Shriners Children's Hospital and was being transported back to her home country in Mexico on this air ambulance when the crash happened. They're sending their hearts and prayers out to the families of the medical crew and the pilots who were on board. According to the statement, and they should have more information than we should, because they're the ones who are impacted first line with those who are now, they're saying, lost from this crash. And so we know that the notifications are being made to the proper people who were impacted by this crash, which would include the 6 people who were on board this Learjet 55. Shriner's children then confirming that there has been and have been fatalities according to their information tonight, and that the patient that was being treated was a young child, a girl from Mexico. And so this just coming into Action News.
The tragedy becoming more and more real throughout the night as we continue to follow this heartbreak in the city of Philadelphia. We switch now to Action News' Christy Aletto, who's live for us in our satellite center, who's been gathering sound from our officials and also keeping an eye on some of the jaw-dropping and heartbreaking video coming into our newsroom of this incident tonight. Christy.
Yeah, Gray and Shari, we've been monitoring the feeds, and moments after that crash, we were inundated with calls from residents and even eyewitnesses trying to verify what they had just felt, seen, and heard. And then suddenly we were inundated with videos and pictures of not just the aftermath of the crash, but also the moment of impact. We've got more video that shows on the left or right here from a vantage point of a driver on Roosevelt Boulevard, dash cam capturing the Learjet falling fast out of the sky just a block or two ahead and from where it was stopped at a traffic light. The impact of that crash again lighting up the sky and a large plume of fire and smoke mushrooming overhead. Drivers stop and at some point even try to get out of their cars to make sense of what they just witnessed. And then residents also, you know, here on scene, you can see the fire literally spans the entire width of that street. Firefighters on scene trying to extinguish the flames, and then residents standing in horror on the sidewalks trying to make sense of what is behind this, the cause of this fire and all this smoke that is mushrooming from the street and also from what appears to be a home. You know, the mayor even said this evening that there were homes that were impacted, there were cars that were impacted, and we still don't know who were in those vehicles and who were in those homes. Some other video, Lau, possibly here we can see outside of a Dunkin' Donuts, debris scattered all over the sidewalk, all over the parking lot. Again, in the distance, a large fireball, black smoke billowing, and then all of the litter and debris just scattered across this sidewalk, people trying to figure out what has happened. And likely that could be, presumably some of that could be parts from the aircraft or parts just from other things that might have been hit during that crash. Again, people just trying to make sense of what happened. And then more vantage points from this right here, drone video overhead of the scene. And we've been hearing from our reporters that are out there saying that this scene spans several blocks. Just from the view itself, it looks like two to five blocks. But I mean, this is a large scene. We know that they've been trying to call in additional personnel to work overnight well into the morning. And it also gives you a sense of the area and how densely populated it is. It's commercial businesses on one side, residential on the other. Again, going back to what the mayor said, there were homes that were on fire, there were vehicles that were impacted, and even some of our witnesses saying that there were people who were also on fire walking around. So we know that there were 6 individuals that were on that chopper. We still don't know how many individuals on the ground may or may not have been impacted by this, but certainly this is just heartbreaking that it is hitting so close to home just days after what we saw and witnessed in Washington, D.C. And now we are trying to come together and piece together and like be there for one another as we try to make sense of what is happening in our very own neighborhood. Shari and Gray.
Christy Aletto with that report. Christy, thank you. This continues to develop throughout the night. Again, if you're just joining us, this tragedy unfolding just a little after 6. That Learjet 55 crashing there in Northeast Philadelphia, right there along Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. Heartbreaking situation there. We're hearing now more about the 6 lives lost that we know about so far. Those 6 individuals on that plane tonight. We know that, of course, 4 were crew members, 1 a pediatric patient, and her mother was on that plane. We just heard from Shriners confirming that that child was actually on that plane. Shriners saying that they are heartbroken tonight to confirm that one of their pediatric patients and that child's mother were indeed on board that jet rescue air ambulance that crashed in Northeast Philadelphia. So as we get more information about this tragedy, it becomes ever so real that it happened right here in our backyards and there were fatalities. And what makes this situation more sad is the fact that this was a pediatric patient.
Is this new video? I'm not sure if we've seen
I
this
think
particular
we may have seen this video
angle.
before of the
Okay.
explosion. Yeah.
We've had so much video come in, and for our viewers, any way you can help us tell the story, of course, we welcome you to send us video and pictures of what your experience was tonight when this Learjet went down. We want to go now to Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia, who is near the scene and has been talking with witnesses through.
She's actually not ready yet, but as we get her prepared, we want to say we did talk to an expert not too long ago, Captain Ron Alvarado, a Marine and pilot, saying that on his perspective of the video that he was looking at here, as you saw that plane make a nosedive, we know that FAA and NTSB still have to do their investigation, but his expertise and what he's seeing, he says that something he believes inside the cockpit went wrong. He's saying that the plane, from what he was hearing, was supposed to make a turn. That turn did not happen. We do not know exactly what happened, but in the coming days and months, we of course will find out as officials come and do their assessment and of course collect the black boxes that are on that Lear 55 jet.
We now want to go to Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia, who's been speaking with witnesses tonight who've been sharing their accounts. Jessica, some of them, of course, very shaken by what they saw and experienced tonight.
Absolutely. Shari and Gray, you both mentioned when anytime that there's a pediatric case involved, just how heartbreaking it is. We should also mention Shriners and all of the incredible work that they do. Everything is funded by donations. And these children and these doctors and everyone who works with Shriners are just really, really phenomenal people. And hopefully we can do a follow-up story on them. But here on the scene, we've spoken with a number of witnesses who were here. They were either working or in the area out to get dinner. This happened right around dinner time. Many people just trying to get home to their houses, but so many streets in this area are currently blocked. Cotman Avenue is completely shut down as police are continuing to look for some of this debris, which is all evidence at this point as they continue to gather information. Witnesses that we spoke with, one of them was working out, says that they saw the whole room started to shake and there were weights that were literally flying off of the walls. Another man that we spoke with said he was so concerned because he was trying to get a hold of his cousin who was working at a Chipotle nearby. And when his cousin wasn't answering his phone, he got really worried that something had happened. Again, so many people had questions as to what exactly went down here. We're also hearing so many reports of that debris landing on cars and causing a fire. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how many people on the ground were affected by this and the damage that may have been caused to some of the homes. Also, we had a witness tell us that there was a bus that was moving through the area that was hit with debris and people were getting off the bus and were injured. So, what's challenging about these stories is we're out here and witnesses want to talk to us because they want to share their stories. It's also crucial that we verify that all the information is in fact correct before then sharing it with you. There is so much video that is out there, and as we know, especially in a time of AI, we have to be so careful about social media and how that information is spread. And it's often this false information or these fake videos that are reposted more times. So please make sure if you are doing that at home or you are sharing video with friends that you do so respectfully and that you make sure that that video is in fact verified. We're going to continue to be out here and gather more information. We do have several interesting interviews from people that we spoke with that arrived at the scene momentarily after this happened, or within moments rather, I should say, and then other people who were here and saw the entire situation as it was unfolding. So we're going to try to turn that over and get that back to you as soon as possible. But for now, Shari and Gray, back to you.
Jessica Cartalia live on the scene there. Great perspective, great reporting. Jessica, we'll check back with you throughout the night.
Of course, there's going to be a lot of questions as to what went wrong for the pilots who were, of course, doing their best. They're trained. So something tonight happened and did not go as planned. The weather, the conditions, that will also, of course, be a part of the investigation. We do want to bring in meteorologist Cecily Tynan, who was following conditions at the time of this crash. Of course, Cecily, this plane going down just after 6 o'clock tonight, and you know that there's quite a bit of weather that's been through the area recently.
And Shari and Gray, whenever there is a plane crash, one thing they investigate is the weather. And we did have adverse weather conditions, but Storm Tracker 6 showing at the time of the crash, there was just a little bit of light rain around. We didn't have any severe weather, no severe thunderstorms, no huge downdrafts. And as far as the fog, we had some really dense fog earlier in the day, but by about 6 o'clock, Northeast Philadelphia Airport, there was 6-mile visibility. There was a low cloud deck ceiling at about 600 feet. But again, the rain was light. The winds not a huge factor out of the southwest at 10 miles an hour. And the ground temperature about 48 degrees. So even about 1,600 feet up from the surface where the plane likely was, it was still well above freezing. So there are no issues with icing. Now, as far as the cloud deck, to kind of put it in perspective, if we had clear skies, this is what it looks like. When you have a cloud deck of about 600 feet, several of the center city buildings, you can't see the tops of it. You can see City Hall. It's pretty low. But as far as Comcast Center, 1-2 Liberty Place, you wouldn't see the tops of the buildings. So there were adverse weather conditions, but certainly not weather conditions that typically flights don't take off, don't land. And actually, during this time, we didn't even have a lot of flight delays in the mid-Atlantic. Now, as far as the weekend for the investigators, for the cleanup crew, we will not have adverse weather conditions. It will be windy tomorrow. The sunshine returns. Those winds out of the northwest about 15 to 25 miles per hour. So wind chills will be in the 20s. Going to be a cool day, but we will see the return of sunshine with an air temperature of 40 degrees for the high. On Sunday, it clouds up, but it should be a dry day with a high of 41 degrees. So the weather will be improving overnight as that rain pushes out. Back to you guys.
Okay, Cecily, thank you for your insight in regards to the weather. You're absolutely right. When plane crashes happen, that is top of the list for the FAA and NTSB as part of their investigation.
And we continue to follow this breaking news story. And as that new information comes in, we are now getting a better idea of who was on that Learjet 55 that crashed just after 6 there in Northeast Philadelphia. We know tonight 6 people were on that plane that went down there, 4 crew members. And also now we know Shriners Children's Hospital saying a patient of theirs and her mother were on that plane. They had received treatment, were in the process of being transported back to their home country of Mexico. They're confirming tonight that mother and child did die in this horrific crash there in Northeast Philadelphia. Exactly what happened tonight, still a mystery. We don't know what happened. It'll be some time likely before we know. We know that this is a full-fledged investigation. You have the National Transportation Safety Board here on scene. Also, FAA, State Police, Philadelphia Fire and Police Department. We heard from officials, the governor speaking not too long ago, joined by Mayor Sherrell Parker and other top brass across the city of Philadelphia. We also heard from the NTSB tonight, saying that they are here in the area as they begin their investigation. They say that they arrived here on scene. Additional team members will be arriving on Saturday. And Shari, as you know, as we've covered breaking news stories like this, it'll be quite some time before they figure out exactly what caused that plane to go down.
Yeah, the investigations are extensive,
yeah,
and as they should be, because this is rare. This doesn't happen on a regular basis. Plane crashes are not common, and yet here we are, Gray, talking about our second plane crash in a matter of 2 days here in the United States. It has sent shockwaves through this country, and tonight all eyes are on Philadelphia and what has happened here, because it has happened yet again. We want to go now to Action News reporter Brianna Gallagher, who is live for us in Northeast Philadelphia, where the city is doing their best, Brianna, to help those who might need some assistance tonight.
That's right, Shari and Gray. The city is doing their best, coming together to
do what they can for all of those who are displaced tonight. We're outside of Samuel Fells High School. You can see that people are starting to arrive as they are getting ready to set up a shelter for anyone who may be displaced. In charge of the shelter is the American Red Cross, working alongside the Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management. We're told no one has arrived here just yet. We also still have people coming from the scene, making their way here to contribute and start setting things up. So far, we've just seen people and volunteers of the American Red Cross bringing in supplies as they're getting things set up through those doors. This is where as close as we're allowed to get at this moment, but so far no one has come here just yet. You heard from Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker, anyone who is displaced, urging them to come here, anyone who can't get inside of their home to come to this shelter. If people are inside of their homes, to stay put, and if you don't have to be in that area, to avoid the area. So once again, we are set up outside of Samuel Fells High School here, a shelter that is now in the works of getting set up with the American Red Cross and the Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management. We're told that some of the officials will start to make their way here as this gets set up further, and we wait for those who are displaced. Gray, Shari.
Brianna, thank you so much for your reporting there. The city needing to prepare and be ready. So if there is assistance needed, that there is a place to go, and that is that location at Fells High School right there in the Northeast. Of course, that community knows that area very well, where the high school is, not too far from the ShopRite, right around the corner from Lawncrest. That whole area, of course, in the Northeast, Fells High School, very well known. So we've been covering this crash tonight, this Learjet 55, which crashed just after 6 o'clock. As we continue to get more information, we've been on the air since the 7 o'clock hour. Action News came on live to give you these updates as we have been receiving them into our newsroom here tonight.
And we thank you for watching Action News at PHL on 17. Our coverage now continues, of course, on 6 ABC as we continue to follow this tragedy.
So for those of you who are joining us and still with us on Action News 6 ABC, thank you for being with us. I also know that a lot of you are watching through your social media platforms and through your devices streaming 6 ABC. That is also happening. We've heard from you, and we know that you're watching people who do not live in our area, but they are very interested in what's happening here in the city of Philadelphia with this plane crash tonight, which is, of course, garnering national attention. So much so we also did receive a statement from President Donald Trump as he too is monitoring the developments here in Philadelphia as it pertains to this Learjet 55, which crashed just after 6 o'clock with 6 people on board. We recently got an update within the last 20 minutes, receiving more information as to who was on board as we take a look at the images that have come in from our viewers throughout the night. I first got word about this at 6:11. That was my first text message tonight from a first responder who was concerned about what was happening. The mayor has talked tonight, Mayor Sherelle Parker, letting us know that this indeed did happen just after 6 o'clock tonight, where the plane went down right near the mall there off Roosevelt Boulevard, a very populated, highly dense residential area, hundreds of businesses. This is a very busy part of the city of Philadelphia.
And Shari, as we continue to see the images coming into our newsroom via social media and our viewers who were actually there and witnessed this tragedy, people likely want to know more about this aircraft. And we're learning a bit more about this Learjet 55. We know it is with the company called Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. And we know tonight that you are probably curious about this aircraft. We know that it's an air ambulance company, has been operating since 2015. The company licensed by the state of Florida and provides air rescue services across the U.S. and in major cities throughout Mexico. We know tonight 6 souls were on that plane. It is presumed none of the individuals made it out alive. We know a young child and her mother headed back to Mexico after being treated at Shriners did not survive.
Yeah, we did get confirmation that there were 6 people on board this Learjet when it crashed. Heavy hearts here in our city, heavy hearts across the country as they are, of course, watching what's happening in Philadelphia.
And you're now watching Action News at 11. Our breaking coverage continues tonight on that Learjet 55 that crashed in northeast Philadelphia a bit after 6 o'clock. We know tonight 6 individuals have lost their lives.
I'm Shari Williams alongside Gray Hall. Thank you for joining us. Ambulance. We now know that on board was a pediatric patient being taken care of by Shriners Hospital of Philadelphia. We also know on board with that pediatric patient was the mother of that child. Those two, the mother and the child, were being transported to Mexico. Shriners Children putting out a statement just in the last 25-30 minutes, and it reads in part that Shriners Children's is heartbroken to confirm that one of our pediatric patients and the child's mother were aboard the jet rescue air ambulance that crashed in Philadelphia this evening. But because of patient privacy and concerns, they're not saying more about the patient's identity or the patient's family. That, of course, is understandable. But this lets us know that these families that were impacted by the crash are being notified, and next of kin is being notified of the crash tonight. Their statement goes on to say, our hearts and prayers go out to the families of the medical crew and pilots who were also lost in this tragic event.
We should also mention that there were other injuries on the ground tonight that we're getting confirmation about. Temple Jeans Hospital saying that it received 6 patients. 3, we've learned, have been released. 3 are said to be in fair condition tonight. And as we talk about this tragedy, let's talk about the distance of the airport. About 4 miles away from where it went down. We know this plane was in the air for about 30 seconds before it went down. So it was in the air a short amount of time. We know something horribly went wrong. Exactly what that was, we don't know, but we know investigators will begin their investigation, and it will take some time before we know that. Action News reporter Annie McCormick, she's been live for us at Northeast Philadelphia Airport, covering the situation there and talking to her sources. Annie, what are you hearing more about this breaking situation?
Yeah, well, Greg, we do know that that jet rescue air ambulance did take off from runway 24 here at Northeast Airport just after 6 o'clock and was only in the air for a very brief amount of time. The company saying that the crash happened at about 25 past 6. That is when the crash did occur, of course, with 6 people on board, including that young patient, the patient's mother, a patient of Shriner Hospital, and also the medic staff on board and the pilots as well. We can tell you that when we arrived here, we were able to see a number of federal investigators responding. Governor Shapiro did confirmed that 4 investigators from the FAA and 4 from the NTSB were dispatched out here. We saw them load up. There seemed to be a meeting inside, and then they took off, presumably to go to the crash site. And there's a couple things that they're going to be looking at, as with any crash. They're going to be looking at weather conditions. Those in the aviation community have explained to me that these types of jets do have different instruments that are able to be used in weather conditions that might be a little bit rougher than a normal plane. It depends on the type of instruments, but because this is a medic jet, they have those instruments that rain may not be too much of a problem for them. They're going to be looking at a number of other things, including the transmissions. You heard the aviation expert talk about that. You also heard him talk about how he anticipated that the plane was supposed to make a left turn and it did not. They're going to be looking at the fuel. I'm told that already tonight, shortly after the crash occurred, heard that they were checking the fuel out here. One of the things they were checking is to see whether or not any water, maybe from the inclement weather, got into that fuel. That's one thing I'm told is protocol when this all happens. The other thing that many people are curious about is with the engine. Was this an engine failure situation? There is still so much to go through. Of course, officials on all levels are coming together tonight to work on this. Mayor Sherrell Parker said this a short time ago.
Let me start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation. This is only the first of many briefings, I'm sure, to come on this evening. And of course, when daylight comes, when we have more facts and information to share with you. But I do want to say a special thank you right now, again, to all of our federal and state partners and our amazing first responders right here in the city of Philadelphia. Our fire, our EMS, our police department, they have been here working vigorously to ensure that we get this perimeter and the surrounding area blocked off to ensure that we make public safety and health our #1 priority. So we don't have any further information to share at this time. I've spoken to our Governor Josh Shapiro. He is en route. I've spoken to our U.S. Senator John Fetterman, other federal officials, and everyone, all hands on deck. That's where we are right now. Thank you so very much, and we'll have more information to report in the near future.
Now, I'm talking just about the federal investigation. This is going to be a huge undertaking for those investigators. Just to give you some perspective, if there is a crashes we've covered in the past that happen in more of a rural area, they have that area where there's not a lot else going on there. So in a way, the crash scene is a little bit more contained. But when you have it at Cottman and the Boulevard with residences and the mall, it is such a wide breadth of area that they're going to have to collect all of that debris. Of course, the black box is something that they're already going to check, but to collect all of that debris, we've been told in the past by the NTSB investigators when we've been on these types of scenes before that they have to basically take everything, reconstruct it. So this is normally would take about 2 years for an entire investigation. So this will take a lengthy amount of time. For now, we're live at the Northeast Airport. Annie McCormick.
Okay, Annie, thanks for your reporting throughout this evening and all of the updates you've brought us in regards to the FAA and the NTSB and their work that's cut out for them.
Yeah, we are continuing to hear about the injuries and the fatalities tonight. So far, we know 6 individuals have lost their lives. They were all on that Lear Jet 55 that went down there in Northeast Philadelphia. We heard 4 crew members were on this particular plane, a pediatric patient and her mother. They were patients with Shriners. Shriners releasing a statement talking about their heartbreak tonight. So devastating. We also know that Temple Jeans Hospital received 6 patients, 3 released, 3 said to be in fair condition tonight. Presumably that number will go up throughout the night. We also heard from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia saying that none of its patients were on board that plane and the flight was not affiliated with its hospital. So that good news for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia tonight.
We want to go now to Action News reporter Brianna Smith, who has been reporting from near the scene there, which of course a large perimeter. So let's check in now with Brianna Smith and the latest from there. Brianna.
Yeah, Shari and Gray, first responders and agencies have been here for hours now, from the local to the state to the federal level, working hard to investigate the area. But it feels much calmer and quieter compared to when we first arrived here on scene. Before, this area was just covered with witnesses and bystanders taking video, remaining in disbelief at what they were seeing unfold. And we spoke to some of those witnesses who say they saw that explosion that lit up the sky, and they just said it was unbelievable. And their hearts go out to the family and friends who are impacted by this situation. And again, you can see it's still very much an active scene here, and you see the flashing lights, the police officers that span blocks at this scene. We also spoke to Governor Josh Shapiro. He was here tonight, and this is what he had to say.
We have 25 members of our PennDOT team who are here right now. We have members of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority who are here, including our director, Randy Padfield, who joins me behind here. We also have members of DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, who are here to make sure that any hazardous materials are addressed. And as you heard the mayor reference, we're joined by several state representatives and senators. I want to thank them. They will make sure that whatever is needed for this community gets to this community. I also spoke earlier this evening with the United States Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy.
About this being a unified response to this aviation disaster. I think he put that in a really great way, talking about how many agencies are coming together to piece together what happened here tonight. And of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to those who are affected. Again, we spoke to those witnesses who saw this all unfold. And then you think about the family members and those impacted, those who lost their lives. And this is just the beginning of this investigation. This is going to take a while to figure out what happened here, and of course we will keep you updated as we learn more. Shari and Gray.
Okay, Brianna, thank you for your reporting and your perspective tonight on this tragedy in the city of Philadelphia tonight. As we continue to monitor this breaking news situation, of course the videos continue to come in, and just looking at these videos, just unbelievable that this happened in our community, in our neighborhood, and so many people, of course, tonight impacted by this. That plane in the air for about 30 seconds, we're hearing, before it made that what appeared to be a nosedive right there in Northeast Philadelphia along Cottman Avenue, Roosevelt Boulevard. We know homes were on fire, buildings were on fire, cars were on fire, and sadly, people walking the street were on fire.
Yeah, this incident cannot be lost on us.
No.
The humanity and knowing really what's happening in these moments where this plane wasn't able to keep its lift and to stay afloat. And the videos that are coming in that really tell the story. Seeing the explosion, seeing the people react in awe, shocked by what happened, wanting to know more of what was going on. It really just tells the story of those families. We can't begin to imagine, for those who are learning tonight, that their loved ones did not make it.
We want to switch now to Action News reporter Brianna Gallagher. She is live now at a shelter, and she's joined by...
This is Councilmember Anthony Phillips joining Brianna, and I'm sure he has a lot to say, Brianna, and sharing with you on reaction to this incident.
Yes, Gray, Shari, as first responders and officials are still on scene, volunteers are making their way here to Samuel Fells High School. And this is where officials are telling people to come. If you need shelter, you can't get to your home, this is where you should come. And I'm joined, by Councilmember right now. Why are you out here tonight?
Yeah, I'm out here because a lot of our residents have been impacted. I represent this lower northeast part of the district, and this is our high school. And I wanted to make sure that the residents that are here know that, we're here for them. Honestly, this is a communities coming together. As I was walking into the shelter tonight, I had noticed 3 residents bringing water and other supplies to make sure that those who were affected by the tragedy felt good. And so, and also when I was in there, I was listening to a resident tell me her story. She was literally five doors down from the tragedy, watching TV, doing work, eating food, and she had stuff in her hands. And immediately when the plane struck, everything at her hands flew up in the air. Her dog ran down to the basement, and she went rushing after her dog to make sure he was safe, but the dog was petrified. When she's going to the basement, she noticed all of her front windows were out. So a lot of the residents that are coming here, can you imagine, their homes are full of debris, their windows are out, it's not even hospitable. So that whole neighborhood has been really, really impacted in a devastating way. So right now, we need love, we need prayers, we need support right here in our district. So if you want to come down to Samuel Fells High School, bring food, bring love, prayers, and also supplies for our residents right now. So
I know, what do things look like in there? I know you said you just saw a handful of people, and I know we spoke a moment ago about that woman. You know, these stories that keep coming out, these people that were there when this happened, it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. It's quite devastating. What you see in there right now are people who are right now they're sitting down with blankets over them. They're being comforted by Red Cross workers, because Red Cross workers also have mental health support services that they're giving them as well. And they're showing them love, and also they're getting water, they're getting food that's might needed. They're also being evaluated for any medical issues that they may be going through as well. But this is going to be a long process, and what I know for sure is that the city is going to have their back in terms of rebuilding their homes that have been impacted, but also the mental health support that they're going to need as well, because you know, your home is never going to feel the same, you know, after a tragedy like that. And you got to find a way to get back into the home, back into the groove of things. I mean, this has been a gut-wrenching week for me, honestly, and I can only imagine it's a gut-wrenching week for the rest of the city of Philadelphia as well, especially for these residents who are just being really impacted. So, yeah. I know we heard Mayor Shaw Parker and Governor Josh Shapiro stress that this is a unified effort. No stone will be left unturned, and you know, people are going to be coming together to help those that are impacted. Yeah, absolutely. Right now, we're in our office, we're trying to figure out ways to make sure we get the word out about 1-800 Red Cross and other support services that could be there, whether that be mental health or financial services that people are going to need at this moment. But we also, on the city council side, we clearly now understand that there is something going on in the aviation across the nation, and we're trying to think about, as council members, what's next. So, like, how can we find ways to make sure aviation is strong in our nation, because that's supposed to be one of the safest places to be on, and that's not. It doesn't feel that way right now, and people are feeling this gut wrench in their hearts and their throats right now. It's terrible. All we need is God. You know, we really need God to see us through this one, and I know people are praying for us. Thank you, Councilman Phillips, for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you. And if you do have anything, any volunteers, anything that you can donate, you can bring them on down here to the high school. We're going to send it back to you guys. Shari, Gray.
Well, we're thankful to Council Member Phillips for joining us and sharing his perspective of what's happening to the residents, our neighbors in the Northeast tonight.
And as we continue our breaking news coverage of this crash here in Northeast Philadelphia, I believe now we have some sound from the tower as this Learjet 55 came down in Northeast Philadelphia. Let's listen.
Condition 755. We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed, so no inbounds or outbounds probably. 60908 Foxtrot, I'm sure you copied that, but for right now, we're gonna call the field closed. We'll try to get you out here when we can. If we can't, we'll have to take you over to Atlantic, but stand by for now.
So we'll have to get more information as to the context of the exchange that was happening there. That is a piece of the audio from the control tower in relation to the time frame of when the Learjet 55 was set to depart from the airport in Northeast Philadelphia. We'll work to get more context as to what the conversation was about, but that is the audio that we have, as we're still, of course, for the first time playing that on the air here during our coverage. We will continue to decipher from that, but that is part of the audio from the control tower.
We should mention that we spoke to an expert earlier, Captain Ron Alvarado. He's a Marine and pilot, airline pilot. He heard that piece of audio there, and his assessment, he's saying that the plane was supposed to make, I believe, some turn. I can't remember if it's right or left, but the Learjet 55 was supposed to make a right turn or left turn. That did not happen. So for him, that meant that something went wrong inside the plane. But of course, officially, the NTSB and the FAA have to make that final assessment.
Yeah, something went wrong, and it went wrong quickly. Yeah. Meteorologist Cecily Tynan now joining us. Of course, when planes are ready to fly, the weather conditions are a major part of it, Cecily.
Yes, and whenever there's a plane crash, something that investigators do look at are the weather conditions. Today, it was a rainy, foggy day, but right around time when the plane took off and then crashed moments later, Storm Tracker 6 shows that there was just some light rain around. It wasn't a driving heavy rain. Certainly wasn't a nice day. There were adverse conditions, but the fog had actually lifted from earlier today. So at the time of the crash, Northeast Philadelphia, there was a 6-mile visibility. Now, the cloud deck was relatively low, about 600 feet. The rain was light, winds really not a factor out of the southwest at 10 miles per hour. The ground temperature 48 degrees, and even higher up in the atmosphere, temperatures were well above freezing where the plane would have been, so icing not an issue. Now, as far as the cloud deck, to kind of put it in perspective what this means, clear skies, this is what the Center City skyline looks like. When you have a cloud deck that's about 600 feet, you can still see the top of City Hall, you can still see William Penn, but you can't see the tops of some of the buildings in Center City. Comcast Center, 1 and 2 Liberty Place blocked out, but it doesn't look like the weather conditions would have caused a plane to nosedive like that. Now, Storm Tracker 6 live right now showing the rain is pushing out. We still have some heavy rain across parts of South Jersey, light rain in Philadelphia, but notice north and west that rain is beginning to exit. It should be pushing off the coast by about 3 o'clock in the morning. So the exclusive AccuWeather 7-day forecast tomorrow, the sunshine is back, 40 degrees for the high, but the winds will be gusting about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So that 40 will feel more like temperatures are in the 20s when you factor in the wind chill. Sunday, Groundhog Day, the clouds roll in. Disturbance up to the north. Should be dry here, though. 41 degrees for the high. And then Monday, we're up to 54 degrees. Lots of clouds, but very mild. Temperatures drop back into the 40s on Tuesday. 48 degrees, partly sunny. Now, Wednesday's the one colder day of the week with a high of 40 degrees. And in the afternoon, we could get a rain or snow shower. Thursday, back up to 55 degrees with some rain showers, and Friday mostly sunny with a high of 48 degrees. So no big weather concerns for the weekend for the investigators and for people displaced. Back to you guys.
Cecily Tynan with that report. Cecily, thank you for your insight and perspective on this.
Our continuing coverage of our big story tonight, of course, this Learjet 55 that has crashed in Philadelphia continues now. We want to go to Action News reporter Leland Pender, who's been doing the reporting in regards to those who needed to be treated and sent to hospitals tonight. Leland.
Yeah, and Shari and Gray, I just don't think we're going to get any definitive information on injuries and those potential fatalities tonight. It's just such a wide-ranging investigation with still so much to go through as far as, you know, reports and looking at the plane and the scene there in Northeast Philadelphia. It's just not known right now. We've gotten updates from the mayor and other officials tonight, and they're saying what they can, but as far as injuries and fatalities, they just don't have that information. Here at Jefferson Torresdale Hospital, we have been monitoring the situation here. There's been a cop out front for several hours, as long as we've been here, and we now know that the only people getting through to the hospital are people who either work here or are family members of the victims. There have been a number, I don't have a number for you, but there has been a number of ambulances coming through here all throughout the evening. Police vehicles as well. Some have their sirens and lights activated. Some come in without those lights activated, but there has been easily maybe 2 or 3 dozen in and out throughout the night. We are hearing from another hospital system, Temple Health. They say they did have a handful of patients that they treated as a result of this plane crash tonight. Here at Jefferson Health, they're not saying how many patients have been treated across their healthcare system or here at Jefferson Torresdale, but certainly we know that some people have been brought here for treatment. What the injuries could be, we just don't know. Obviously, burns, that is, of course, a possibility. Any number of physical injuries is possible. We've heard throughout the night from reporters who were at the scene of some of the things they have seen. A man on fire, someone described, limbs. This is just so horrific. And this is just the beginning, and there's still so much to uncover and to learn about what happened and how many people have been affected. Of course, we know the tragic end for those people on the plane, but this happened in such a busy area of the city, homes, the mall, just so many places where people would have been at 6 o'clock at night, early in the evening, dinner time, having fun with friends, out and about running errands. So it just remains to be seen the scope of the injuries and unfortunately death that we may see as a result of this. But for now, we're live here outside Jefferson, Torresdale. Leland Pender, Channel 6 Action News. Shari and Gray, back to you.
All right, Leland, thanks for your report there from the hospital.
We are joined now by Shriner's spokesperson, Mel Bauer. Mel, first of all, our hearts go out to you and your staff. We have learned that a patient and a mother have lost their lives in this horrible crash in Northeast Philadelphia. Tell us more about what you know about the situation and the patient and the mom.
Well, thank you for your condolences. We appreciate that. It's just the most tragic situation. You know, we care for children from all over the world at our facilities here in the U.S. and abroad. And the goal, of course, is always that they live their best life and that we enable them to do all the things that they want to do. And to have such a tragic end for this patient is just devastating and heartbreaking for all of us at Shriners.
Mel, we want to just thank you again. This is Shari Williams speaking with you here on the phone. And then we can only imagine what you must be feeling, you and your organization, to see the images that are coming in. How are you communicating with your own staff as you're getting word of what has unfolded tonight?
Well, I think we're all still in shock. I think that, our patient ended her care at our facility today and had a send off by the team there. And I think we're all still just beginning to process, how something so tragic could have happened, and just the devastation of all of this, I think, hasn't even really started to sink in yet. But of course, not just for our patient, but for those on the ground and the medical crew in the plane. There's so many tonight that our hearts go out to. It's not just our patient, but of course, that's where our heart really is with our own patient. But just the devastation that we're seeing from this unbelievable situation is just so tragic.
This is a person who we can already imagine then was already in a life fight already, because receiving care and treatment from Shriners Children's. You guys do an amazing job, the work that you do to help families recover and push through their health challenges. And now this to happen. It started, I'm sure, as a day that you thought was one to celebrate, as this child was leaving today and had completed their medical treatment with Shriners.
Well, as you said, we take care of children with complex medical conditions all over the globe. And it's a routine act for us to bring patients internationally to our facilities. And this is just something so unexpected. It's never something we've encountered before. And it's usually very routine for us to bring patients from all over the globe to different facilities, but particularly to Philadelphia, where we have a lot of international patients that are seen and treated because of the world-class care that we're able to provide there. And this sort of ending is just hard to even contemplate, to be honest.
And Mel, we know for you, this is so real. And these individuals were not just a number. This was a mother and her young child. On a human level, how do you and your staff move forward? We know the work that you do. You see tragedies on a daily basis, but this is to the extreme. What do you say to your staff tomorrow morning or later tonight?
Whenever we encounter difficulties such as this, we always actually look to our own patients, because they exhibit a strength that many of us as adults have simply stopped learning how to possess. The hope, the joy that they possess, the strength that they show us, they actually give us the strength. that it takes to move forward from a situation like this. And so I would imagine in the coming days, we will really be drawing on the strength of our own patients who have, so much strength in the adversity that they overcome, so much courage in the challenges that they face, and their approach to life is really just an inspiration to us. And so I think we'll just all be drawing together in the coming days and drawing from that energy that our incredible patients possess each and every day, and tapping into their joy and their hopefulness during our own sadness.
Yeah, you and your staff, we know that.
We're going to break away from this tragedy. Once more, our next plane has crashed in the United States. Our hearts and prayers go out to the victims and to the citizens of Philadelphia. This is where we're going to break and say thank you all very much for joining us. On behalf of our news team, on behalf of all the teams of the Mek Wi Talk program who make this possible, I am Jeffrey Tavares saying so long. May God bless you. May God protect each and every one of us and all our loved ones around the world, in our homeland, Jamaica, land we love. Good night, everyone.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, Mek Wi Talk, my people, Mek Wi Talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Mek Wi Talk, people, Mek Wi Talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, Mek Wi Talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Mek Wi Talk.